Oh, there you are, Indilo Yamamwachi. A very good morning to you. Bonjour, wherever you are connecting with us this morning. This right here is the AM show, the finest on morning television. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I do this always together with Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah, and Mapito Sibiri. From us to you, welcome aboard. We'll be starting you the news shortly, but after that, it's the news review, and we'll be joined by energy analyst Kojo Poku. He is our guest. From there, we transition to our big stories. And today we have an interaction with Palgrave Wachidankwa. He is government's spokesperson on governance and security. What will we be discussing with him? The motion of censure against Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. We'll also take a look at what to expect when Mr. Ofori-Atta presents the budget tomorrow. What can we anticipate ahead of that? In fact, just in the next few days. But then again, we have leaders from Ghana, Benin, Togo, and the Ivory Coast who met to discuss how to fight the increased risks from terrorist organizations. We'll be discussing that with security analysts Professor Kwesi Ening and Emmanuel Bombande. Again, there are a couple of labor-related issues brewing in the country right now. We know labor is asking government for a 60% increment in wages. We also know the Technical Universities Teachers Association of Ghana is on strike. We'll be delving into these issues as well on the AM show this morning. Also to boot, officials from the Ghana Revenue Authority will join us to talk about the GRA's warehousing policy. What's that all about? Stay with us. But later, and in fact in the course of the show, we offer you the chance to join us with your thoughts on the issues we're going to be discussing. The hashtag is AM Show in the course of the show. And at the tail end, when we activate the phone lines, give us a call. Let's know what you think. On that note, Ghana, for welcome aboard. Up next, the news. Thank you for staying with us. Let's get into the news now. And in our first story, Chief Executive of the Minerals Commission, Martin Kwekweyisi, says the outlawed legal small-scale mining enterprise cannot be defeated overnight. Mr. Isi believes that most of the illegal miners operate in hard-to-reach areas, making it nearly impossible for law enforcers to effect any arrest. He's been speaking at the ongoing workshop on artisanal small-scale mining here in Accra.
If you ask me, as the head of the regulatory body, what will I mention as number one when it comes to ASM? I'll tell you, getting minerals areas for them to work. If it's a matter of putting them in some of these so-called blockade areas, or what we call areas designated for small-scale mining, I'll look into the face of my minister, he knows, and tell him, and I've told him before, Minister, will have solved small-scale mining in Ghana, will have solved all this issue. Because we have blocked out several thousands of small-scale, several thousand square kilometers for small-scale mining. By and large, these are kind of things that we are trying to do. Now, the community mining, we don't give them any different type of authorization. It's still a small-scale license. The fundamental difference is that as much as possible, we try to encourage many of the people to do it in the community. And you don't need to come from the community to apply. Chiefs can lead it, or even a group of sponsors can go and talk to the community. What is important is that you employ a lot of people from the community. Like the one we did on Friday, which was launched by the minister, we are targeting anything between 1,000 and 2,000 people to be employed. So we hope that once we do these things properly, very well, we'll be in a position to improve the situation. Anybody who tells you that Galamsey can end overnight is deceiving you, because it is not an easy thing. Some of the areas are even inaccessible. If you know very well, vehicles can't even go there. They walk and go deep inside the forest or inside the bush to go and do the illegal mining. So it will take some time to get a full grips on the issue.
Well, also at the same event was Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abu-Jinapor, who reiterated government's commitment to sanitizing the mining sector.
Lately, we have had to adopt more stringent measures including the declaration of river bodies as red zones for mining, the ban on recognizance, prospecting, and/or exploration in forest reserves, the launch of Operation Hall 2 to rid our river bodies and forest reserves of illegal mining activities, the introduction of speed boats and river guards to patrol and protect our river bodies, ban on the manufacture, sale, and/or use of floating platforms known as champagne, which are used in the pollution of the river bodies, and the enhancement of the punishment regime for persons involved in illegal mining. While taking these preventive measures, in partnership with the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners, we launched the Responsible Small-Scale Miners Award Scheme to recognize and reward small-scale miners who are committed to responsible and sustainable mining practices. And through the National Landscape Restoration and Small-Scale Mining Project, we are strengthening integrated natural resource management and enhanced governance in small-scale mining. Ladies and gentlemen, these measures undoubtedly have yielded some results. However, we still have more to do to come to grips with this canker of illegal small-scale mining. We recognize the complexities involved in this fight and the recalcitrant nature of the cartels involved, largely because of the huge sums of money involved in this enterprise. But we are committed to work with all stakeholders, including the World Gold Council, to ensure that we build a responsible, sustainable, and environmentally sound small-scale mining industry here in Ghana.
Well, we will not be shortchanged. What is rightly ours, we will have to get it. Those are the words of Technical Universities Teachers Association of Ghana, TUTAG, to government as its members demand immediate implementation of conditions of service and a review of fuel and car maintenance allowances. The teachers boycotted classes on Monday after a strike declaration on Friday. In an interview with Love News, President of TUTAG, Professor Collins Amayao, said the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission had failed to expedite processes to approve the negotiated internally generated funds, related conditions of service to be included in the 2023 budget. Love FM's Emmanuel Bright-Kweku has more in this report.
10 days ago, leadership of the Technical University Teachers Association of Ghana served notice to lay down their tools after the government's failure to honor its codified conditions of service, which have been outstanding since 2016. However, according to the association, government has turned a deaf ear to its demands, despite the 10-day ultimatum. The association says the Ministry of Finance and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is failing to heed to directives by the National Labour Commission to approve documents to ensure payment of internally generated funds. Professor Collins Amayao is National President of TUTAG.
The condition of service has two legs. One is payroll related, which is paid by government, and one is IGF, paid internally by the various universities. Because of the delay, the issue had to go to the National Labour Commission, which is just like a high court. And the National Labour Commission ruled that government should take the necessary steps to approve the document to ensure that those that have financial implications are captured in the budget. Okay, as we speak, most of the institutions have finished preparing their budget. So when will the approval come, and when will it be captured in the budget? And you agree with me that if an item is not captured in the budget, there is no way payment can be effected.
Professor Amayao says the delay in the 2023 budget reading gives the state agencies ample time to expedite processes for the approval of the documents for consideration in the budget.
They should take the necessary steps to have it approved before budgets are prepared, okay, to ensure that payment can start in January 2023. But it's been dragging. We don't know the motivation. And luckily for us, the budget has not been read. But in the number scheme of things, budget should have been read around 15th of November. You understand? So, fortunately for us, we still have some time. So we think that this is the time to push to ensure that we get approval for it to be captured in the budget.
Well, we'll also have an extensive conversation with Professor Ameyao later on the show. And Allied Health Professionals Council has revealed that the industry has been infiltrated by quacks inundating the system with fraudulent activities. The council attributes the seemingly unending actions of these medical fraudsters to the non-enforcement of laws and the lack of prosecution against such acts. There is more in this report.
Begin at the 9th induction and oath swearing ceremony of Allied Health Professional Interns in Kumasi, Deputy Registrar of the Council bemoaned the inactions of law enforcement agencies. Daniel Atanyako is worried reported cases of quacks have not seen adequate punitive actions. He, however, urged the public to report persons found culpable for swift action.
Another disturbing issue facing the allied health industry is the canker of quacks who have invaded the health delivery fraternity. The harm being committed by these people cannot be underestimated. The Council, with the total support of the Governing Board and the Health Intelligence Unit of the Ministry of Health, have been trying to weed out the charlatans from our society. Unfortunately, however, the expected support from law enforcement agencies have not helped much to deal with the issue. Several cases reported to the police across the country appear dead for lack of prosecution. A humble appeal is for the necessary support in this fight, by swiftly dealing with the offenders to protect the unsuspecting members of the society from these criminals.
The ceremony saw Allied Health graduates with diploma in dispensing optics, community mental health, disease control and health promotion, among other disciplines, inducted into their one-year mandatory internship beginning in December. Daniel Atanyako also called on the Ministry of Health to urgently support the quest to replace some 4-year bachelor programs with 6-year professional doctorates.
The Ghana government, through the Ministry of Health, has approved these programs developed by the West African Health Organization. The introduction of 2 of the programs, namely Doctor of Optometry and Doctor of Medical Laboratory Science, have been confronted with several challenges. It's our hope and prayer that the ministry will give equal recognition and support it has given to similar programs.
A representative from the Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council, Abu-Baidoo, assured of government's commitment to reduce the number of unemployed allied health professionals through recruitment under its Agenda 111 project.
The completion of these projects will automatically lead to the recruitment of more health professionals to provide services in these facilities. Owing to the current economic hardship across the globe, a huge strain is placed on government, and as a result, stakeholders across all sectors are encouraged to partner government in building a stable economy for all of us all.
For JoyNews, Emmanuel Kweku reporting.
Now, the Global Communities Project has declared some 372 communities in the northern region open defecation free. The group has also constructed more than 19,000 toilets across the targeted regions to help other communities become OD free. Martina Bugri now reports.
The country director of Global Communities, Alberto Welde, who disclosed this in a speech read on his behalf by a senior behavior integration specialist at Global Communities, Edward Thompson, at this year's World Toilet Day in Yendi, said despite the gains made, the northern region still has a long way to go in attaining the safe, sustainable development goal of ensuring availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all by 2030.
Levels as well. Despite all these achievements, we still have a long way to go in attaining the sustainable goal of ensuring availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all by the year 2030. It is no coincidence that this year's theme for the World Toilet Day speaks to both sanitation and water. That is sanitation and groundwater, and the campaign message being making the invisible visible. In our quest to improve sanitation in the shortest possible time, let us not lose sight of the adverse effect of our actions that our actions can have on groundwater if strict measures are not taken.
The municipal chief executive for Yendi, Alhaji Ahmed Yusuf, said the selection of Yendi to host this year's World Toilet Day is appropriate because Yendi is among the hosts of 12 MMDAs nationwide selected to benefit from the Sustainable Fecal Sludge Management for Urban Center project. He noted that the Assembly has set a deadline of June 2023 for every household to own a toilet or be prosecuted.
Because the municipality is among 12 MMDAs nationwide selected to benefit from the Sustainable Fecal Sludge Management for Urban Centers project, which is to be funded by the African Development Bank and implemented by the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources. By the design of the project, treatment plants will be constructed and pipes connected to toilets in individual homes to collect the plant. This is then treated and turned into composite fertilizer.
The overlord of Gabon, His Royal Majesty Yana Abukari II, in a speech read on his behalf, said he and his kinsmen will support any action that will help ensure clean environment in his kingdom.
I wish to give an assurance to government and the organizers of this program about our desire to support all steps that are initiated towards ending open defecation in this kingdom. And
the theme for the day was sustainable and groundwater, making the invisible visible.
Well, last week, the special committee set up by Parliament to consider the minority's motion of censure against Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta began sitting. But even in those heated exchanges, there were things to laugh about. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante captures those moments in this report.
Times are hard. Even Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, who is blamed for the current economic crisis, admits to this, with the parliamentary process seeking to remove him underway. The special committee set up by the Speaker has been hearing from witnesses. With such a serious business that could end the political career of the minister, there has still been moments of jokes and laughter with co-chair of the committee, Adansi Asokwa MP K.T. Hammond, the center of most of such encounters. The minority leader had claimed the NDC's numbers in parliament were not being respected. This is what K.T. Hammond had to say in response.
We are here because of the numbers that he said we are not respected. If we had proper numbers, you think we'll be sitting here, I'll be sweating like this. So what do you mean by we don't respect your numbers?
You will recall the contentious matter of haircuts or no haircuts as Ghana seeks to restructure its debts. Listen to this banter where K.T. Hammond says he doesn't need a haircut because God is his barber.
I'm not sure the president was advised properly to have been categorical that there will be no haircut. Has there been a haircut? Whatever that means. If there is tomorrow, my God is my barber. Nobody's cutting my hair.
You have no hair for a cut.
So which one is that?
Yours, you fit as guy and pay something.
But between the two co-chairs of the committee, K.T. Hammond and Dominic Ayine, who has been at the bar for a longer period.
Well, yes, co-chair. Yeah, co-senior chair.
Okay, well, you are my senior in parliament, but you are my junior at the bar.
Also. When were you called to the bar?
I was called to the bar in October 1995.
And you call yourself a senior? I was called to the bar of England and Wales in November 1991.
Well, an English lawyer has no license to practice in Ghana.
Listen to him. I was exempted from the whatever bar here and granted my exemption to practice at the bar of Ghana. What are you talking about?
When were you called to the bar of Ghana?
I repeat that. He said 1991, 1996?
1995.
Well, you said 1995. I was granted exemptions in Ghana in 1997. You don't take me for a baby. 1991, where was he?
So you are 2 years. You are 2 years my junior.
You are out of order. Completely out of order.
KT Hammond also wants Dr. Keselatu Forsen to shut up when he is speaking.
Because you keep interjecting me.
Since when did you become kind of anxious about
I know because you are.
Yeah, so Uncle talks, you shut up, isn't it? Yeah.
Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu also had a proverb for the committee.
You know, this morning when I arrived, Chairman, I shared a proverb with you and Honorable Anyimedu. I said, if you are pounding fufu for a blind man, the best way to assure the blind man that you are not eating the fufu is to be whistling. You have to be whistling whilst you are pounding. Is the city crash or not crash? We have done our whistling.
As the committee ended its work and co-chair KT Hammond introduced guests, he refused to introduce one notable minister.
I expect the committee to take parliamentary notice of my name and constituency. Of course.
Even with these light moments, the country awaits the verdict of Parliament on the embattled Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, who is blamed for the sorry state of the economy.
And then, Finance Minister, you remember when you started owing certain West, I told you that don't do it because the cataclysm is mine, and then the apocalyptic is Mr. Apocalyptic. He's here. So he's here. So I think yours is the ecospace, isn't it? Ecosystem. You can own your ecosystem.
And on that hilarious note, we wrap up the news this morning. But up next, we delve into the papers for you. Do stay with us for the news review. Well, thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to delve into the papers and bring you some analysis with our thoughts. Joining us for the conversation, energy analyst Kojo Poku. Kojo, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you, my brother?
I'm very well. As I always add, under the circumstances. God keeps us. How about you? How are you faring?
I'm very good. Under the circumstances, it's a brand new day, brand new week. So we're looking, there's a lot more to look forward to. So, hey, we are good.
Kojo, I'm just going to pull your legs. When some of us say under the circumstances,
well, Ben, we are all under the circumstances. Have you ever heard that word, more money, more problems?
Sir, okay. I hear you.
More problems.
Right.
So under the circumstances, in the United
Ayo, but it's always good to connect with you. I remember the last time at the PURC's Silver Jubilee. Always good to have you. All right, so let's get into some interesting stories. But before we delve into the papers, you've heard about the motion of censure in Parliament, Ken Ofori-Atta, and what his responses have been to those 7 points that have been brought to the fore against him. How have you find the entire approach, the sittings when it comes to the motion of censure? We're yet to see what the decision of that committee will be, and if it has to be decided by the plenary as well, what the decision will be. What do you think, though? On Thursday, we're going to have the budget statement read. When Ken Ofori-Atta was asked whether he would do it, he said hopefully and all of that. There have been suggestions that the majority could walk out if he decided to do it, with the support of the minority. Don't you think this is being stretched too far? Is it time for Ken to simply move aside and let someone take over? What do you think?
Well, good morning and good morning to your viewers. I think you know my thought on this matter because we've discussed it quite extensively. I personally think that this whole charade has gone too far. The Honorable Minister himself, for the integrity that he has, he's a very astute businessman, well accomplished. He's done a lot for himself in life. He came to help and serve look, you're a minister, you are serving the nation. It's gotten to the point where everybody in Ghana is of the view that you should step aside. Just gracefully step aside. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you've been a bad minister. It's just that you've taken us to a point in the country where we, the people that you are serving us, feel you should step aside. And it's general. Everywhere you go, everybody is of the view that the Honorable Finance Minister should step aside. So I really don't know what he's fighting. Okay, because whatever happens, the president has given the assurance to the parliamentarians that after budget at the end of the year, you will go. So for me, why go through all this thing of the censorship and the hearings and all that went on? Because look, even with some of the issues that were brought up, and you asked about the issues, some of the issues that were brought up, in terms of that $100 million that the GMPC put in an offshore account in the London and all that, even the minority that were asking the questions, they didn't understand the issues very well. So you realize that when they asked the question and it is answered, they couldn't now follow up with the follow-up questions that they were supposed to. And I think I was watching it when my friend Ben Boachi from ASEP called me and said, Kojo, what's going on here? I said, well, some of these things, they should call the likes of you, Ben, and to basically interrogate them. Because the parliamentarians, though they know something is wrong, but they just don't understand how to bring out those issues.
So tell us, since you appear to have broader knowledge on it, what exactly is wrong with that particular situation?
Okay, so we all look, you can go online and check. There's a lot of noise that was made by GMPC that they are acquiring extra shares of 7% so Ghana can increase their share of the oil take. And that is going to be done through Esploco. Now, the JOHL, which was a vehicle formed by Anadaco to put the 7% in, because the payment from Ghana and the decision whether Ghana will acquire or not was taking time. So they formed the JOHL vehicle to put the 7% share as a stopgap, like a temporary place to hold the shares. After Ghana paid for the 7% by taking money from Finance Ministry to pay for it, what should have done was what Honorable KK Sapon said, that it was GMPC acquiring the shares to be held by Esploco. They should have now transferred that shares from the JOHL to be owned by Esploco. For some reason, somebody decided that no, we are going to now institutionalize the JOHL and let it become another arm of GMPC. So the Esploco shares was held by JOHL. And then when the lifting was done, they now transferred the money outside the country to Ghana International Bank. Now, there's nothing wrong with where the shares are held. Any shares of a company can be held in any part of the world. That's not the problem. It doesn't mean that when the proceeds from that sale for that shares should also be sent out of the country. We keep talking about dollars not being in the country. So what should have happened was that what they should hit GMPC on is that why are they refusing to transfer the shares from JOHL to Esploco? Because Esploco is a registered company in Ghana with its directors, and it's a whole company that we know. JOHL, until recently, was not registered in Ghana. So why even come and register JOHL? Okay, so it doesn't make sense. Then we have cited documents that the GMPC are basically saying that they are going to borrow some $500 million to pay off the loan that they basically took from Ministry of Finance, and then use some of that 500 million to go into exploration with other companies that they have shares in. But if you realize, it's Esploco that have shares, not JOHL. JOHL doesn't have shares in any of these companies. So then they are using JOHL to now do certain things that some of us are not comfortable with, okay? So the issue was not about, have you put the money where is the money? No, the issue is that why are you refusing to transfer the share to Esploco instead of that is what we were told. Why is it now being changed? And why are you going to borrow off the back? Now that Ghanaians are suffering, why is GMPC going to borrow $500 million to do exploration? That's not the time to do that.
So interesting dynamics, but whichever way, it means that you find that particular point suspicious, and that should never have happened, right? So you disagree with the authorities of GNPC, and you agree with, I think, the vice of PIAC on that matter.
Yes, 100%. You see,
right.
There is a thin line. There's a thin line. The thing is that they are trying to now put on JOHL the characteristics of Exploco. What everybody is saying is that we all know Exploco. Look, in this country, people are divided whether we should have Exploco or not. Some are of the view that Ghana should be able to have money, do its own exploration, and make money off the exploration and the discoveries that Ghana does. So we don't have somebody giving us only 15%. We should find money and do our own exploration. Some are of the view that, look, that's too risky. As a country that doesn't have money, there's no need going into exploration and incurring all those costs and risk that comes with it. But that is a divided country. For me, I think that half and half. So Exploco taking commercial interest in some blocks is welcoming, as long as it's a block that has potential. They have done extensive exploration and geological studies and realized that the potential is huge. Then it's less risky for us to now put our money in there. But do not do it with JOHL, because the plans that GMPC have for JOHL is diabolical.
All right, and there's also this bit in addition, maybe complicating matters further, because we've also got snippets of that situation where Anas Arimeyaw Anas, after his latest expose, which some people said failed to meet expectation, but which, on the back of which Charles Edubuahin, the minister, okay, of state at the finance ministry, was asked to step aside. He has now petitioned Shraj to investigate Ken Ofori-Atta. It appears he's getting a battering from all angles. What's your quick reaction to that before we get into the daily graphic?
Well, I'm sure you've heard a lot of legal people come out and say that what Anas did has a certain level of entrapment. And from listening, from watching, no, I've not watched the video, but I've read the script, which is on social media. I think there is a certain level of entrapment in what he did.
Shouldn't we leave the courts to determine that? Do you remember when the judges issued Ghana in the eyes of God and everything? Those judges were asked to step aside. Some of them were disgraced. So if the same court could do this to its own people, what do you think?
No, I'm not saying the act is right. You see, what's the word? Every action gets a reaction. Okay. What I'm saying is that if you read the script of what happened, for me, I'm not a lawyer, but I have followed a lot of these cases. There was a typical case in London with John Terry, the former England captain and Chelsea captain. Somebody actually got him involved in such a thing, and the court did rule that is entrapment. Look, when you are suggesting things to people to solicit a certain answer, okay, it can be seen as entrapment, because it is the questions that you are asking that is soliciting those answers. Though, if you read the script, I wasn't there, but based on what I've read, the Honorable Minister went on to suggest a few conversations. But if you are asking the person certain questions, oh, if the Vice President comes, what do you think we can do for him? If I bring money to Ghana, what business do you think we can do? Those are things that you are asking the guy to solicit certain questions, or to solicit certain answers. If you are discussing business with somebody and on his own he's a corrupt person, he will brush aside your conversation and say, Matter, Charlie, let's discuss me and you first before we go on to this matter. Okay? If that is when he is coming out to now tell you that, look, sort me out, let's leave that side away. But if you are asking him, oh, if we do this business, what is in for you? What would you want? And the person tell you, I want 20%. To me, it's entrapment, because you are actually going after and soliciting those things out of him. That is what I think. I'm not a lawyer, and like you said, the courts will determine that. But I think that Anas is doing a good work, but the standard should be lifted up a bit. I think the standard is quite low.
Well, just to get into the daily graphic, but a reminder that it is the same standard that President Akufo-Addo, when he was candidate Akufo-Addo, subscribed to when he spoke of the Anas principle. So I guess nothing has changed.
Look, there's a guy in London called, oh God, the name just went, McIntyre. Go look for McIntyre and you will know what McIntyre does. Excellent investigative journalism. Go and look out for McIntyre. Anas can basically team up with McIntyre and learn, because they have sophisticated way of doing this, and they've been doing this in London for years. Where there was a time when a diplomat from Nigeria was running out of a hotel, and the cameras were after that person. And so it's really sophisticated. This what Anas is doing for me. I think it means the standard needs to be upgraded. It's a good thing, but standard needs to be upgraded.
All right, let's get into the Daily Graphic and newspaper. Let peace prevail. Mreku Duka urges Kenyasi youth and Newmont. There's been a standoff between them, and pictured there one of the vehicles that was recently set ablaze. It appears this situation is there's a standoff. There's also High Court dismisses Jomoro election petition. I'm talking about Madam Afote Toffee. Shroud confirms conflict of interest petition against Edubuahin, and more than 50% Ghanaians obese. That's according to a survey. But let's start with the big one. Ahead of 2023 budget Thursday, ambitious revenue mobilization critical. That's according to the Institute of Economic Affairs. Now, it is proposing an ambitious revenue mobilization drive to sustain the country's macroeconomic stability and growth. According to the Institute, past budgets had not been ambitious enough in terms of revenue mobilization to help put the economy on track. Additionally, ahead of the 2023 budget presentation next Thursday, the Institute has proposed 21 issues that the budget should address to help deal with the economic challenges. It further said the budget had to demonstrate consideration for a shift in revenue collection and utilization, that is, fiscal policy capable of delivering sustained macroeconomic stability or growth. Now, the Director of Research at the IEA, Dr. John Kwache, who proposed the benchmarks at a press conference in Accra yesterday, described the 2023 budget as make or break, since its content and execution failure could see the economy sink further. That's the first story, but just hold for me, Kojo Poku. Let me get into some other interesting stories. I'll start with the one on page 16, and that is a worrisome story. More than 50% of Ghanaians are obese, and you know the health risks that come with obesity. You could become hypertensive. You could develop so many ailments out of that. But let's get into it. A majority of Ghanaians are overweight or obese. The Ghana Obesity Survey 2021 has found the first ever most comprehensive survey on obesity and other lifestyle behaviors in the country found that 85% of Ghanaians do not eat healthily, while more than 50% are either obese or overweight. The study, conducted in the country's three largest and most cosmopolitan metropolises, Accra, Kumasi, and Tamale, also found the results not surprising, given the alarming evidence the study gathered on eating habits and physical inactivity. Public health experts fear the results of the study are a testament to the upward trajectory, which, if left unaddressed, will cause massive health risks for millions of Ghanaians. And that is the other story. Let me just add this one, Kojo. So I've spoken about ambitious revenue mobilization, according to the IEA, Dr. John Kwache. The director has been speaking. I've spoken about more than 50% Ghanaians being obese. Let me stay on page 16. High Court dismisses Jomoro election petition. And the National Democratic Congress Member of Parliament for Jomoro, Dorcas Afotofi, will continue to represent her constituents in Parliament after a petition seeking her disqualification failed. A High Court in Sekandi has dismissed an election petition challenging Ms. Afotofi's eligibility to contest the 2020 parliamentary election. The petition, filed by a resident of Jomoro, Joshua Emwa Kofi, accused the MP of having dual nationality, Ghanaian and Ivorian, at the time she filed to contest the 2020 parliamentary election in violation of Article 94(2)A of the 1992 Constitution. However, in a judgment yesterday, the court, presided over by Dr. Justice Richmond Osei, held that before filing to contest the 2020 election, the MP had lawfully renounced her Ivorian citizenship in compliance with the laws of the Ivory Coast. Quick reactions to these stories, Kojo.
Well, it's a good thing that her day in court, and she's been exonerated and she can go about her work as a parliamentarian. I think congratulations to her and congratulations to the court. The system works. Let's look at the budget. For me, I don't think that the budget for 2023 is the make or break budget. The make or break budget should have been the 2022 budget, which was read in 2021.
Yeah, but we've missed the boat, which is why you have to roll to the next obvious point.
I want to put it in context.
Right.
The make or break budget was the 2022 budget, which was read in 2021.
In 2021, right.
Which led us to this problem.
Right.
Because if the 2022 budget has addressed the concerns of investors, one, we would have been downgraded. Okay, so the concerns were there in after COVID,
right?
And we came into 2021. The investor had certain concerns, which they sat with the Minister of Finance and his team and told them, but they brushed them aside. Okay, the key point was that you cannot outspend a pandemic year. You spent a lot of money in the pandemic year. Okay, over 85 billion Ghana cedis over expenditure. Meaning that going forward, you need to now bring the horses back home. You need to look at your economy and give the investor confidence how you intend to turn things around. That was what the 2022 budget was supposed to do. The finance minister didn't do that. That was the make or break budget. We broke it, we didn't make it, and then led us to being downgraded. As a result, we couldn't go into the bonds market in February. And that has what has led our currency going from where it was to where it is today. Then we now have the 2023 budget, which is being read in a couple of days' time. It's called, for me, the repair budget. You need to now repair the damage that you have done. Now, because we have gone to IMF, we couldn't take that decision ourselves. We've gone to IMF to take that decision for us. We are now going to put up a repair budget. So for me, it's really a budget that is going to now do what should have been done last year that we didn't have the courage to do it. Cut out a lot of the social interventions that's not needed, cut out a lot of the infrastructure projects that we can't afford now, and then look at savings. And I hope that when we get on that trajectory, we would continue for a very long time because it's the path that we need to stay on to save. When you hear a lot of the politicians speak now, okay, they keep going on about, we are the first to do this, we are the first to do this, we build this, and we've never did this, unprecedented. The bottom line is every Ghanaian listening to all these chants, listening to all these infrastructure things that you're saying you're done, the bottom line is that we have halved the capital of everybody in this country. From the last 7 months till now, if you have 100,000 Ghana cedis in the bank, it's now worth 50,000. It's been halved. You talked about revenue mobilization as the way to get us out. If you're going to mobilize revenue from industry, these very industries have been collapsed. By virtue of the way we've run the economy, we have halved their capital. So a company that has a capital of 1 million Ghana cedis is now worth 500 million because the real-time value of that money in terms of the dollar, his purchasing power to buy anything is now half. How do you now go and tell that person to pay more money? Now, because government also needs that money to now send money out, the little that you can get from these companies, if you needed 7 cedis to buy $1, the government now needs 14 cedis. So you need double the revenue to be able to pay the same indebtedness that you have.
Right.
So look, it's a very peculiar problem that we are in, and it will take a lot of sacrifice for us to come out of it. So for me, I think revenue mobilization is key. The only thing that we can look at is now go after the people who are not paying taxes, the unbanked, the informal sector, people that we don't have them in the tax bracket. They are the people we can go after. But existing people, it will be difficult to take any more money out of them because they don't have that money. Obesity. Look, we don't walk. We don't do any exercise. It's a good thing these days. You see a lot of people going on the Bree Mountains and all that. But naturally, on our day-to-day, have you seen how we hail Trotro? There's no Trotro bus stop. Everywhere you stand, the Trotro will now stop and pick you. We don't want to walk to the bus stop. There is a footbridge. Nobody wants to walk maybe 5 minutes to the stairs of the footbridge and climb and come down. We cross where exactly we think we should cross, even if it's a high road. Is that level of indiscipline? And with that indiscipline comes all the other things that we have.
Right.
So for me, the obesity is a problem, but as Ghanaians, we need to walk. Go to our campuses. When you go to the Cambridge, I don't know if you've been to Cambridge, everybody rides a bike. Everybody walks around. You won't see a single car in Cambridge.
When I was at the University of Ghana, in fact, we did a lot of walking from Commonwealth Hall, my hall, all the way to Imagine, the Jones Quarty building. You're going to the N block, the new N block, and all. I mean, every day you would come back.
That was when you were there.
realize.
Now, that was when you were there, Ben. Now go there and see the cars they have on campus.
Yeah.
You will be amazed.
Yeah. So,
you will be
it's true.
amazed.
It's true.
So if the kids don't walk, so from that, everybody on campus now wants a car. And for me, I've said that, look, most of our problems in this country, the genesis is from the tertiary education. Because the level of lifestyle that they have on campuses, it is what is being transformed onto the lifestyle that they come after tertiary. Imagine that somebody in school now, okay, who will come out and the most they can make is maybe if you get a good job after service, 1,500 Ghana cedis is your starting entry to work, okay? That person spends that in a week on their hair, on their phone, on their nails, all the above. If they have a girlfriend, they take them out and they order. They don't cook, they order these Uber cars to come in, food and all that. So the lifestyle on campus is an exaggerated lifestyle. And these are the youth that are coming into the workforce. That is why today people say there's no work. There is work, but it is not the paid work that they expect.
Let's get into other stories quickly. Fantastic points you're making. I just want to wrap with the Daily Graphic on these two, but I want to quote what is here. Ban Ki-moon, former UN Secretary General, says, "We hold the future in our hands. Together, we must ensure that our grandchildren will not have to ask why we failed to do the right thing and let them suffer the consequences." When I think of Ghana, I think of our political leadership. I think of how things have gone with our economy. I think of Galamsey and so many other aspects. But that was just a quote here by the Daily Graphic. So there are two stories, just quickly to wrap in less than a minute. Breaking NDC NPP duopoly. You want to serve, the NPP and the generality of the people. You want to contest in the flag bearership. This one says, PPP, CPP, PMC, others discuss merger. It wouldn't be the first time. What do you think of that? And there's also Ministry to streamline distribution of premix fuel. And I'm talking about the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture Development. And the Minister, Mavis Hawakumsin, has explained that the stalling of the supply of premix fuel recently was due to the inability of the bulk distribution companies, BDCs, to blend the required quantities. She reckoned that this had affected premix fuel supply. Quick thoughts on that, 30 seconds, and let's get to other papers.
Now, in terms of the political parties, it's not going to work. They've tried it several times. It doesn't work because at the end of the day, who becomes their leader? That's always been the contention. The who becomes their leader has always been the problem. So they can try it and try it and try it. Everybody from each individual party, the focus is them being the president. The focus is them being the leader. They don't want to be part of something to now go. Like for me today, I keep saying that, look, if we do this MPP presidential thing and I don't get to be successful and somebody gets to be successful, I'm more than happy to offer all the ideas I have so that Ghana will benefit for it. Even if, and a big if, touch wood, the NDC comes into power and somebody from NDC says, oh, Kojo, you have some good ideas, bring it on board. I would honestly bring it on board and let them use it to save Ghana because Ghana is better off for it, okay? Now, if you look at all these political parties, the focus is one person trying to lead. So, look, that thing will never end up anywhere and it won't work.
All right.
Secondly, the issue of premix. Look, premix, the distribution is a scam. The real people who need it don't get it. If you go to the fisher folks, they've been complaining about not getting premix for years. Nobody has been able to put the right measures in place so that the people who need premix gets it. The minister should sit up or be put out.
Daily Guide newspaper, NDC retains Jomoro seat, petitioner dismissed. Chief, 2 others murdered in OT. That's a very sad development. The story is on page 6. And calm has returned to Bore Ahimfi in the Krachi and Chumuru district of the OT region after chaos broke out following the alleged murder of a chief of the area and 2 others over the weekend. That's the story there. But there's also Aisha Huang ditches in Krabia Ifadata for new lawyer. And maybe this, I'd like us to quickly reflect on it. Maybe before I get to that one, there's another story. Let me just look at that. Okay, so I think that's in the Finder newspaper. Keep faith in us, Nana Addo, our president, says so. But I've seen people react to this story and ask, what are you doing that will engender that faith? What is your quick reaction to that?
Look, I think the government still have 2 years. 2 years is a lot for us to change a lot. Okay, I believe in the potential of the party that formed the government. And I think within the party, there is a lot of the brains. We still, well, when we talk of we have the men, we do have the men. Just that the coach has decided that the 11 that he selected for the match, though we are losing by 8-0, he doesn't want to make changes, but there are still good men on the bench. Unfortunately, we can still do a lot because if you look at what has gone wrong in the last 2 years, a lot has gone wrong in 2 years. So we can change a lot also in 2 years. So I have faith in the system, whether the president who is asking us to keep faith in him will listen and take advice. Because as it is in tree balance, even a kid might have something sensible to tell you. Okay, so
no one person, like the English would also say, no one person is the repository of all knowledge. That's basically
Thank you. So basically, though he wants us to keep faith in him, my advice to him is he should listen.
Right.
He should listen. I mean, it doesn't matter how old or how knowledgeable or how entrenched in politics you are. You should listen. And the reason a good leader is one that listens. And for me, for where we are at now, I don't think the president listens to us.
Let's do the final newspaper. Creating the Ghana we want. This is a topic I've actually spoken about in one of my blunt thoughts. Creating the Ghana we want, a call to action for all Ghanaians. It's by Dr. K.Y. Amwako. Don't despair. All is being done to surmount economic difficulties, according to the Vice President, Dr. Baumia. Shoppers want PFJ market, that is the Planting for Food and Jobs market, in more communities. And Professor Kwesi Botwe was an exceptional public servant. That's according to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I want you to touch on these two. Shoppers want PFJ market in more communities. And people have said, why only plantain? And how about rice? How about oil? Those are the expensive ones. Can you get some of those for us? And if we want to make our fufu and the rest, I mean, it's not just plantain we're going to use. But the other story, 1.2 million Ghanaian children not in school. And statistics from the 2021 Population and Housing Census reveal that 1.2 million Ghanaian children, it's actually more than that, aged 4 to 17 are not in school. Out of that number, almost 1 million children have never attended school. This was in a statement from the Ghana Statistical Service to mark World Children's Day on November 20. The Savannah region has 43.2% of children who have never attended school, which is the highest percentage in the country. Quick thoughts?
Ben, you know, one of the pillars of my campaign is to basically rejuvenate early childhood education. So instead of letting kids go to school at 6, I'm looking at having kids go to school at 4, having primary from early childhood from 4. Okay. Now, it would only entail that you have a good nursery curriculum so that every child would have a nursery in their community to go to. So they can start having an early experience in a certain environment so that by age 4, you can now start taking them in primary. Studies have shown that early childhood education from 4 years help kids to develop much better by the time they get to the age of 7 and 8. Forget kids not being in school. Those that are in school, what are they doing? Our primary and nursery education is in a shamble, my brother. And we need a lot more attention in the primary. Because by the time a kid gets to secondary school, that's not where he's going to be taught a lot of things. The fundamentals has to be right. And I think that a lot of emphasis has to go into, one, yes, having the kid in school, but making sure that when the kid is in school, that free compulsory education, the quality, the Q in that, the FQ, the Q in that is highlighted. So we get quality education at the primary level. Look, I think we should all say a little prayer so that the Lord will give Professor Kwesi Botwe somewhere to rest his soul. A very fine gentleman for me growing up. There's a picture of him, P.V. Obey, and Rollins going around in
Yes, I've seen it. I've seen that picture, yes.
And if you are a kid like me in those days when you are fascinated about these powers that be, you know, these guys had absolute power. But there's one thing they failed. They couldn't turn Ghana around. If any group of people could make Ghana a Dubai today, it was those three, Rollins, right, PV, and Kwesi Botwe. They could have done it. But unfortunately, we didn't get there. We have to look to Kojo Poku to come and turn things around. The other thing of the planting for food. Look.
So quickly on that, I want us to get into the Economy Times and the Daily Dispatch very quickly in 1 minute. So go ahead in some 20 seconds. Just
okay, no problem. I said that the planting for food thing, I have suggested it. I have these flyers that I do once a month, once a week that I send to the KMP family. On that, I have suggested that we should have these buffer stock markets where you now cut out the middleman and bring produce into the urban areas so that it will compete with what people are doing in the market. Because I think that the high price that people just take food from the farm gates and then basically hijack the prices in the urban areas is unfortunate. So I have already proposed that, and I'm surprised. I don't know if the minister saw what I put out there and he started practicing it. It's a good thing. But it's beautiful. I think it should be encouraged and continue to all other parts of the country.
All right. Economy Times, policy rate increases remain counterproductive. And I have seen, for example, I am on a facility with one of the banks, and because mine is not fixed, it has gone up, my interest rate. Ghana IMF negotiations to reach success in Q1 of 2023. That's according to Fitch. But how about this one? I want us to focus on this. Reduce rate of e-levy to expand the economy. Stakeholders share ideas. Interestingly, that story also has a bit of a link in the Daily Dispatch that says Momo agents milking government's expected e-levy proceeds. That's according to the research by the Center for Economics, Finance and Inequality Studies, which has shown that many Ghanaians are avoiding the payment of tax on electronic transactions above 100 cedis because of the 1.5% charge. This is making room for mobile money operators or merchants whose numbers have been increasing to milk the government of expected revenue. That's according to this institution. But something else, I follow on social media, and sometimes there are a bit of concerns with the charges because people are complaining that even less than 100 cedis, 50 cedis, 20 cedis, you're still getting charged an e-levy. So that is quite a situation. But let me just bring in, I want you to focus only on the e-levy, but let me look at some other headlines. The Daily Dispatch, the developed world has to transition in the area of energy hand in hand with Africa. That's according to Energy Minister Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh. And then EC consulting with stakeholders to close voting at 3 p.m. during the 2024 elections. Finally, no evil strategies or schemes will work against you. Anodompre to Baumia. Let's focus on the e-levy to wrap. Quick thoughts.
I think the rooster has come home to roost. Is that what they say?
They've come home. They've come home to roost. The chickens have come home to roost.
Okay, the chicken, but the rooster is a chicken, so the rooster has come home to roost. It's my version of the rhyming. Ben, I'm a rapper, so you should come for some lessons.
You're a rapper. Okay, we'll do this someday. Anyway, maybe not on air.
Look, in the e-levy conversation, I think even the minority side of parliament were of the view that we should reduce the levy to 1%, and they would have supported it. The majority, the Ministry of Finance, stuck to the 1.5. And we've practiced it for a year or half a year, but we've realized that it's not working. I think the best thing for us to do is to look, we've implemented this thing, it's not working. How do we make it work for the betterment of all Ghanaians? I think it's come to stay, right? The law has been passed, it's come to stay. But let's tweak it to make it work better for all of us. I think every Ghanaian will want that mobilization of funds for us to be able to use it to better the lives of us. So if the Ministry of Finance and the majority will listen, they should really reduce the rate so that the complaint, because look, Ghanaians are not against taxes. Ghanaians are against how taxes are spent and how hard it's hitting our pocket. So if it comes to 1% and Ghanaians will pay, why not reduce it to 1% and we will all pay? We're already paying at 1. Some of us don't have a choice to pay at 1.5. But if the majority of people are saying, look, reduce it to 1% and let's all comply, then reduce it to 1% and let the complying of that thing becomes. The other thing is that we should now look at the technology that affects that. There is no technology. And I've always said that we should have a technology that comes in to make it better so that you can tax more in the electronic space.
Okay. Kojo Poku, thank you so much. Always good having you on board. I'm grateful you took the time to join us. And that is Kojo Poku, an energy analyst who joined the conversation. But up next, Kojo, was there something you wanted to say?
There's a website that I've done for people who are looking for jobs. It's called resumebankgh.com. Okay, anybody looking for work is free. You can put your CV and put your profile out there. www.resumebankgh.com. It's for me, the little I'm doing to help the unemployed. So anybody who's looking for work, and those who are looking to employ people, there's a lot of CVs on there. You can go on there and take free CVs and then employ people.
All right, thank you, Kojo Poku, for joining the conversation. Up next, we have sports, and most definitely, we're going to be telling you about the routing of Iran. Maybe not a representative national team by the English yesterday by 6-2. And of course, Senegal capitulated to the Netherlands. 2 late goals downing them. More in sports up next. Do stay.
Hello, welcome to AM Sports with me, Muftau Nabila Abda. It will be the 4th time Ghana Black Stars will be participating in the FIFA World Cup. The team is settling well in Doha, and my colleague Gal Alsmith and George Ade Jr. is updating us on the team's preparations ahead of the opening game of the competition against Portugal.
3 days to the big opener for Ghana at the 2022 FIFA World Cup against Portugal. Hello and welcome to the Doubletree Hilton, which is where Ghana is based for the duration of this tournament. We are hoping, of course, that the stay here will be long and fruitful. So far, the welcome to Qatar was electric, it was big. All across here a couple of days ago, there were so many fans waiting. Now things have calmed down a bit. They were given an off day as Otuado accounted for jet lag and for them to rest a bit. But they are back on the pitch today to go through their paces. In terms of team news, there's nothing much to report. All the players are in good shape, we understand. Andre Ayew, the captain, we understand that he'll be going through special training just so that he can get himself up to speed also. It's also a Portugal watch because we understand Cristiano Ronaldo may not start for Portugal. There's so much news going on around that. We don't know what it means for the Black Stars. What it means, though, is that Otuado has to plot for various situations. And speaking of Otuado, his administration has been marked by predictable unpredictability because we've never been able to really say what starting 11 he will be putting out for most of his games. Let me bring in my colleague George Ade Jr., who is here with me. You've been hearing us on radio also together. George, this is the team hotel.
Yeah, it's looking good. And the first thing I mean, easily noticeable for anyone is the number of security men here, or the security detail is absolutely tight. I think probably close to maybe 200 security guys here who are ensuring that the team is safe and also trying as much as possible to prevent unwanted visitors, which is a key thing. It's sometimes been a feature for some of the African teams where they are distracted a bit because of the number of people entering a hotel. It's not likely to be happening this time around. Picking a bit of good news because we know that government had indicated they were not going to fund supporters to Doha, but they had opened the window for corporate Ghana. It appears corporate Ghana has been able to raise an amount of money, and that would be good enough to send some supporters to show up what we've got. When the team arrived here, the streets were full of Ghanaian supporters here in Doha. They were really looking out for the Black Stars, waiting to welcome them. And the numbers were great. So there was a community meeting between the Ghana Football Association and the Ghanaians in this community to establish how many supporters they had. They said they had close to 2,000. Good news is that before we play against Portugal, there will be another set coming from Ghana to show up the numbers to probably 3,200 thereabout. And so we'll have some Ghanaian supporters in the stands supporting the Black Stars. That is really good. Talk about the players. We've seen them. They're looking sharp. They're hoping that they can find a way somehow to get a win or, get an important point against Portugal. And Gary, really, the competition started on a very good note with that opening ceremony. I don't want to say any more words about the opening game. It's all fine. I hope we'll get better as we go.
Coverage of the World Cup continues on Joy Prime. You can watch the games there. The African Challenge begins with Senegal playing the Netherlands. We are hoping that there'll be more Africans going into, for example, the round of 16 and so on. So for now, that's the update from the Team Ghana camp. I'm Gary Al Smith here with George Addo Jr. reporting from Doha.
We will have loads of these as we build up to Ghana's opening game against Portugal, and even more because we'll also be switching our lenses to the other African countries that are participating in the tournament. It was not a good start for African representatives in the FIFA World Cup because yesterday African champions Senegal suffered a 2-0 loss. We'll be bringing you the highlights of that game. But before that, let's hear from a management committee member of the Black Stars, a former defender of the senior national team, Samuel Osei-Kuffour, who's been speaking about the chances of the Black Stars when they come up against Portugal. According to him, the focus on Cristiano Ronaldo should be a non-starter because he's not the only star man in the setup of Portugal. He wants the technical team and every single Ghanaian to look at the Portugal team in a holistic format and not just the star man, Cristiano Ronaldo.
I think we need to control our game and play to our best of our ability. We shouldn't think about the Ronaldo alone. They have some quite great players. So Felix, Fernandez, João Moutinho, they are all good. So the focus shouldn't be on Ronaldo. It should be around the team, how we also approach the game. Yeah. That's the most important thing for me, because if you say Ronaldo, then all the focus will go on Ronaldo, you leave the other ones, and it doesn't work for the team like that. It have to be a collective, it have to be a teamwork, it have to be concentration throughout the 90 minutes. It's a different approach from our technical team, because now things have changed. Even my playing days to now, to today, a lot of things have changed in the training session. Yeah. So you could see that our technical men are doing everything possible, and I am with them every day. They are not sleeping. Yeah. They just go to details by details. The same thing we did against Nigeria. So I believe it's going to be a shock for people because, like I said, we got nothing to lose to play against one of the best in the world, and we have to approach our game the way we want it.
We'll bring you the highlights of England versus Iran and that of USA versus Wales shortly. But our pundit for our coverage of the FIFA World Cup, Christopher Nimley, provided a breakdown of how Senegal suffered a defeat against the Netherlands.
There are 4 players or 5 players that I want to highlight. First of all, Mendy, and then Koulibaly and his defensive partner, and then the left back of Senegal. They had a clear view of what was going to happen. Now, when I move this on a bit, and I paused it here, when the ball got to Frankie de Jong, you could clearly see the movement of Akakpo. Akakpo at this stage, we say he's on the blind side. He's on the blind side of Koulibaly. There you go. Okay. There you go. There you go. Okay, I'm not getting my icons on board. But Akakpo on this side, pause it here. He was on the, if only we could take it back a bit. Let's take it back a bit. Let's take it back a bit so that I will show some few things.
Very well, sure.
Okay, so you clearly see that this is already gone. But I wanted to highlight the starting position of Mendy. The fact that this is, look at the space in front of Mendy. Clearly his starting position was wrong because he could clearly see what was going to happen. Frankie de Jong's ball was going to be what? An in-swinger. And once it is an in-swinger, it is heading towards goal. So the starting position of Mendy here was very, very important. So he should have taken at least 1 or 2 steps, and he's starting on the 6-yard line. He didn't do that. Mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 came from the left back. Came from the left back of Senegal, because already, like I said earlier on, Akakpo is on the blind side of Koulibaly and his defensive partner, so they couldn't see him. They had their eyes on the ball, so it meant that the only Senegalese defender who could have at least helped curtail the situation or give Akakpo some form of competition was the left back, and he went completely to sleep. Somebody had 2 Dutch players to deal with, but in tactics, you tell you that the one behind you is away from goal. So in terms of danger, he poses the lesser danger. And Gakpo, who was the one in front of you, closer to goal, is the one going to pose the most danger. So he should have focused on Gakpo and not the player behind him. Now, if you roll this up, if you could play it again, there you go. Now look at Mendy. He clearly saw that his 3 defenders were all completely out of the picture. So he needed to come and save the situation. But because, again, like I said earlier on, his starting position was so bad, he couldn't get there in time, and they considered from a very sloppy way of defending. At this level, you don't defend like this. At this level, when you defend like this, 99% out of 100, you are punished.
You are punished indeed. And we're talking about the technique that Cody Gakpo used to outwit, goalkeeper Mendy. I mean, this is a ball. I mean, we saw similar situations.
Yesterday.
We've seen similar situations in the last 24 hours.
Exactly.
And you could clearly see that players went into the air, but unfortunately were not able to get their heads technically the way they should to get the ball in the kind of direction that they were.
Exactly. You see, the ball itself, like I said earlier, was an in-swinger. And once it is that, you don't need to apply any form of force. Not too much of a force will actually solve your problem. All he needed to do was to flick it. And if you look at him, he did 2 things right. In flicking the ball, he also dodged Mendy's punch, because Mendy could have just gone into him like that.
Yeah,
that would have brought some form of concussion, which we all don't want, isn't it? So he did the smartest of things, was to get to the ball first, flick the ball, and then quickly went off the Mendy's punch. And you need to be of a certain quality to be able to exhibit these 3 things within a split of a second.
Christopher Nimley there, you would always want to join him on our coverage of the FIFA World Cup on Joy Prime, as he, Maxwell Konadu, David Akam and Jonathan Mensah brings you some unrivaled perspective into the actions that will be happening in the FIFA World Cup. Tonight, we're bringing you France versus Australia. Build-up starts at 6 p.m. and kick-off at 7 p.m.
Thank you for staying. We're so grateful. This is the AM show, and I'm still here. Later on, we'll be joined by Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah, and Mapito CBD. But for now, let's get into our first big story. We interact with Palgrave Bwache-Dankwa on matters arising out of that motion of censure in Parliament. The committee has concluded its work, the ad hoc committee. Interesting dynamics that came to the fore in there. But what can we expect as a decision is going to be arrived at? Is it going to end there? Are we going to go back to plenary and all of that? Well, joining the discussion, we have Palgrave Bwache-Dankwa. He's government spokesperson on governance and security. He joins me in the studio once more. Palgrave, a very good morning to you.
Very good morning.
I'm actually very grateful. I, together with my team, I think I should do this on behalf of the team that Thank you.
It's always an opportunity to be on multimedia. You know that you guys are one of the trailblazers in this country, and it's always a joy for government to partner with you to be able to educate the Ghanaian people on what is happening in government. So thank you for the opportunity as well.
Right. So we'll talk about that motion of censure. We'll talk about the budget, slated for Thursday. The finance minister hopefully will be delivering that. I say hopefully because of some questions I'll be posing to him. Later on, we'll also talk about Albert Kandapa and what he's been saying about the state of our national security, Galamsey, the threat basically about terrorist forces in the sub-region. We'll be joined by Professor Inning and others on that discussion. Well, let me start with Palgrave. For you, all of those, and I don't know whether I walked you through those 7 points. I could actually get them very quickly because I took a snapshot of that. Okay. But there were 7 crucial issues for which the motion of censure was triggered, for which this ad hoc committee, 8 members, were put together. What do you make of it all? Let's start from there.
So, Benjamin, we are in very interesting times. That's how I like to see. And really, all countries, all finance ministers, all presidents are in very difficult times to be able to ensure that their citizens have the best of leadership. And our President, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has not defaulted in that regard. I found it quite unfortunate that our finance minister had to be dragged to Parliament through a censorship for impeachment and removal from office. I felt that it would have been good for the conversations that had arisen in terms of the first 7 allegations to be before the Finance Committee in Parliament. But I'm quite happy and excited that the Finance Minister had an opportunity and a fair hearing to rebut those allegations that came against him. You'll recall that there were initial 2 of those allegations out of the 7 allegations that didn't have grounds for the ad hoc committee to deal with. And so that was clearly scrubbed off. There were 5 other allegations that came forward. And I found it that it was really enlightening, very educative for the Ghanaian people to better appreciate the roles and responsibilities of a finance minister, and also for the Ghanaian people to appreciate some of the challenges the finance ministers go through, how tactical they must be to ensure that they balance the books and also keep the livelihood of the Ghanaian people at best. So one of the first issues, you would realize that the finance minister was very humble in his delivery. The finance minister apologized on behalf of the government and even the Ghanaian people, and stated that every finance minister around the world, when given the opportunity, would apologize for the challenges that we are going through. He was upfront in that, and also stated that in the midst of the challenges that we are going through, our lights are still on. We are not queuing for fuel. The hospital dispensaries have failed. Most of our schools are filled, the children are going to school and the likes. And then it came to the issue of contingency fund and contingency vote. The finance minister gave some case studies of how we came to withdraw money for the cathedral, which has been one of the most controversial infrastructure of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and stated very clearly that the cathedral funds came from the contingency vote, not the contingency fund, which needs to go through parliamentary approval. Stated very clearly that the contingency vote has been standard procedure even prior to the MPP government coming into power in 2017, and gave case reference of 2014-2015, when the then NDC government was in power, when the cabinet of John Dramani Mahama had to give some money for the World Cup, FIFA World Cup in Brazil, close to about $9 million, and even had to fly some extended amount of money through a private jet, and also gave case reference in recent times as Ghana qualified for the Qatar 2022, and as our budget was read on the 16th of November 2021, at a time when we had not had any qualification, but then as a result of the contingency vote, which is always approved and passed by the Parliament Finance Select Committee, were able to make funds available for our players to be playing in the World Cup sometime this year and this week as well. So clearly for me, all those extrapolations were quite key. Also gave conversations around our debt record, that the former president, John Agyekum Kufuor, left a debt record of close to about $9 billion, 9 billion Ghana cedis, I'm sorry, in 2009 when he was leaving office. And then in 2016, when John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, was leaving office, left a debt record of close to about 123 billion Ghana cedis. And then just oppose that to our debt record as of 2021 to the tune of about 450 billion, and then marry that with, in terms of percentage, close to about 1,300% in the NDC government, and then ours is about 360%. So really, the conversation about mismanagement or overborrowing is an issue that is strong for people.
We'll get into those, and some felt that it was almost a rehash of the 2022 budget, almost as though he were going to rehash practically everything.
No, but Benjamin, truth is sacrosanct. I mean, truth is sacrosanct. It cannot be hidden from any other data and facts that is available for the Ghanaian people.
So we'll get into some of the truths that you speak of. But let's talk about, so I found the screenshot I took of those, the photo I took. Conflict of interest, unconstitutional withdrawals from the consolidated fund, illegal payment of oil revenues into offshore accounts, deliberate and dishonest misreporting of economic data to Parliament, fiscal recklessness leading to the crash of the Ghana cedi, incompetence and frightening ineptitude and gross mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy. Some say he successfully, in a way, parried some of the claims that were made, but that in other respects, he didn't. Let's start with a bit about the contingency fund and the contingency vote. Yes, there are reasons we have the contingency vote to take care of certain urgent situations. But we also know that the contingency vote is finite. It is not infinite. It is finite. So when the talk is brought to bear of a national cathedral, for example, and 25 million given as seed money, red flags are raised. Do you admit that the contingency vote is limited?
I would like to give the perspective of the difference between the contingency fund and the contingency vote.
Yes, but before
then the Ghanaian people.
Do you realize that the contingency vote itself is limited? There are some things you can't do. I
do not doubt that other government obligations include the seed capital that must be given for the country's national cathedral, which the Attorney General gave an opinion on that as at January 2022. That is the national cathedral and not the President's cathedral, and is registered.
But is it a national cathedral that the people want that is going to serve the purpose of the people? That's
the President of the Republic was voted into power by the people. And so whatever vision,
but without having told the people,
whatever vision,
but without having told the people that he would construct a national cathedral, that was never in there.
The president did not even tell the people he was going to do Agenda 111. But as a result of COVID and the deficiency,
he spoke of infrastructure.
Yes,
Agenda 111 feeds into that.
No, the president did not speak about Agenda 111 in the 2016 elections. You will recall. But as a result of the fact that we didn't predict that the world was going to face such a major pandemic that had close to about 6 million people dying globally, the president saw the deficiency in the health infrastructure and decided that he's going to build 111 hospitals. And I tell you today that 60% of them are close to completion. So there are certain things that we didn't tell the Ghanaian people, rightly so, but in the midst of that, as part of the vision of the entire architecture of the country, we as a government felt that it's good for us to put that. But let me just give the difference between the contingency fund and the contingency vote.
Right.
Now, on page 6 of the finance minister's delivery, and he says the contingency fund, the proponents refer to it, was covered under the constitution, specifically under Article 177. This constitutes money voted by Parliament, and advances from this must be authorized by the Parliament Finance Committee. Right. That's clear. Now, the contingency vote, on the other hand, is in line under the other government obligations.
Right.
Vote, which is approved by the Finance Committee and passed as part of the Annual Appropriation Act passed by Parliament. And then give case reference that from 2014, there was no specific allocation for the 2014 budget for Ghana's participation in the FIFA World Cup in Brazil. Right. The cabinet of President John Mahama, and I had stated all of this over and over again. So clearly, there are issues that are not stated in the budget that goes under other government obligations. And I feel that the matter has been brought to a rest with this clarification. And I stated there are many
I don't know about coming to a rest, because you have only explained to us what the law says technically. But the point to be made is that the contingency vote is not infinite. That is what has come to the fore. That is what some other members of parliament have also brought up. And I'm saying that it's not to say that the contingency fund vote is not meant for the purposes. It's meant for exigencies. But people are saying, was the National Cathedral an exigency? Was it an urgency? And having spent 25 million seed money, it overshoots what the contingency vote is meant.
Benjamin, I do not think so. I think that the matter that was brought to bear was the constitutionality of the withdrawal.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is what is carries with this entire,
it's a matter of constitutionality.
Agreement or discussion on a fund and a vote.
Yes, the main issue is that the finance minister, John Abu-Baidoo, has not breached any constitution in the withdrawal of the amount of money that was given as seed capital to the National Cathedral. You'll recall that in all budgets that were presented, and I have it here, in the 2021 budget that was presented, we stated as a country that we're going to support with land, we're going to support with the secretariat, and we're going to support with seed capital. And so if as a government, I mean, if you look at our 2020 budget and economic policy, paragraph 385, we announced the establishment of the Board of Trustees of the Cathedral. The same year, 2020 mid-year review budget, paragraph 279, we also announced the groundbreaking, which happened on the 5th of March, 2020, for the commercial construction of the face of the project of the Cathedral. So you look at all of these issues. We have updated the Ghanaian people in all of our budget statements and our budget reading of the government's commitment, in addition to all other infrastructural works that we are doing. But I'll tell you the truth, the economic value when we are done as a country building this cathedral, you would appreciate the number of persons that would come into this country for tourism, because there is a Bible museum that is being built. I had an opportunity of living in Israel for 3 years, and I've seen the number of people that journey from around the world to come to Jerusalem on pilgrimage on a regular basis. And on this continent, Christians would appreciate that our Lord Jesus Christ came to Egypt. And so if we have a national cathedral that represents the faith of the Ghanaian people, I think that it's something that we all must be grateful to.
The faith of the Ghanaian people is, first of all, if you would, yes, looking at the numbers, more Christian, but there are Muslims here. There are those who observe, at least, if you look at the 3 recognized ones, at least as per our national life, traditional, African religion, Christianity, Islam. So, which faith exactly?
Ghana is a very sacred religious.
We're not.
Ghana is not a Christian country. No one has stated that. No one has stated that.
Right.
Ghana is a very religious and sacred country.
Right.
And I was particularly excited when the chief imam exhibited that religiosity by supporting the National Cathedral, because it's a national monument.
Right.
It's a national monument, and everyone should be a part of it. In recent times, I think sometime this morning, I heard Dr. Joyce Ayers speak about the National Cathedral and how people should be contributing to make sure that the National Cathedral is built. And I'm very confident that by the time we go into the 2024 general election, we will see such a beautiful edifice there for the Ghanaian people to continually engage in their worship to God or to Allah or to whichever supreme being.
So let me just ask this. So even in these harsh economic times, and with, first of all, the MPP, your administration feels it is reflective of the will of the people, the hoi polloi, the vox populi, to go ahead with a cathedral that has been roundly denounced by civil society organizations, by people in media, by the generality of Ghanaians in terms of votes that have been conducted, surveys that have been conducted. That is one. And then if you consider, you spoke about our debt stock. You look at how much has been added from before this administration took over. That is about 120 billion, and now we're staring at about 350 billion. You feel it is justified in terms of some of these projects in these times we find ourselves?
Our borrowing did not begin in 2020. You will recall. Did
it begin in 2017?
So when we came into government, there was an already IMF program that was running. And we brought the IMF program, I think as at April of 2018, we completed the IMF program. And the country began on a single-digit inflation. I mean, we have recorded a single-digit inflation for the past 4 years, from 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020, until we came into March 2020 when COVID entered into our country. And then the devastating effect of the pandemic, hit us so badly. Whilst we were recovering from the pandemic, no one knew that Russia was going to invade Ukraine. And I've sat in global conversations. You have listened to global conversations around the world. Just last week, COP27 was ongoing. There was consistent, repeated updates of what the pandemic has caused the global world, what the Russia's invasion of Ukraine has caused the global world. So clearly, these borrowings are to make sure that the government continues to invest in infrastructure, the government continues to meet the needs of the Ghanaian people, the government continues to make sure that every single promise in terms of our flagship programs come to bear. And I think that we are very justified.
Your flagship programs have failed, but we'll get to that in a bit. So you've borrowed about 320 billion. Our debt stock currently, per what the finance minister has just been telling us, is around 450 billion Ghana cedis. And your administration alone has borrowed about in excess of 320 billion. And when you're asked what you have to show, you often go to those flagship programs. Let's take them bit by bit. Free SHS. I listened once more to Professor Ivan Adai-Mensah, former Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, very respected senior friend and colleague of mine. Recently, I think it was the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences that invited him. And he reiterated the point that, look, it's a good thing, but the way we are implementing it is shambolic. It's not going to help. Look at Planting for Food and Jobs. I spoke recently to Dr. Nyaho Tabaklo, a founding member of your party, who says it's a no-brainer. And this is not sustainable. In fact, I hear, I think under former President Rawlings in the early days, something similar was done. It folded up within a very short while. We can take a look at 1D1F, another, flagship program, which some people say has failed. The last time I came here, you said there were 200 factories. Recently, we heard Nana Kumia make some assertions about factories in Savelugu and the rest, and our checks reveal those factories are there, all right. They are not complete. They are not producing anything. How do you respond to all of these? How has our borrowing reflected in the lives of people?
So, Benjamin, as a government, all our 16 flagship programs have been extremely effective. I can tell you on authority, there is none that has failed. Clearly, I can tell you on authority that there is none that has failed. Our government...
Even when a founding member of your party says they have failed?
Benjamin, I am telling you that there is none that has failed. Our flagship programs, I'll tell you, I'll begin. We campaigned on free SHS, giving young people an opportunity to go to school. The percentages of young people that drop out from junior high into senior high is skyrocketing. The high level of illiteracy in this country is extremely worrying and a concern to every single person who is thinking about the next generation. Our president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, campaigned on a free SHS. In less than 100 days in 2017, we implemented one of the most audacious flagship programs in this country, on this continent, widely admired by countries and governments that want to emulate.
Let's skip the rhetoric and talk about
what it has achieved. I'm coming into it.
Let's talk about what it has
I'm coming into it. We have supported 1,765,977,000 students under free SHS and TVET to promote human capital development and social mobility. Number two, we have enrolled close to about 15,650,000 the youth start that gives young people an opportunity, close to about 1 million young people to start their entrepreneurial jobs. As a government, we are turning this country into an entrepreneurial nation. You can imagine the conglomerate of the Asian tigers. You name them, Jack Wang. You name them. You go to Nigeria, our neighbors. You name them, Dangote. Look at how these people have become global entrepreneurs. As a government, we seek to see to it that young people take the future into their hands by starting their own business. And I've posted that you look at these 1 million jobs that we seek to create, and even look at 10 people getting grants and funds from the youth start to be able to start their own businesses. And each of them begin to employ even 20 people. Just multiply that. The effect is huge. I'm very confident that by the time our government ends its tenure by 2024, would have created more jobs in this country than any government since 1957. You can quote me on that. Now, we have also provided the needed infrastructure to support decentralization in local government to expand access to public services under the Regional Reorganization Program. We have promoted the development of railway network. I have, you have traveled around the world. You've seen how it's taken countries many years to build infrastructure as it relates to railways. You travel to the Volta region now. It's admirable to see the level of infrastructure that we have put in railway. We have tackled it by the bull. I don't think that any government has been that head-on as it relates to those things. We have supported the ongoing construction of fishing harbors to service key coastal communities, including Axim, Discove, Mori, Montfort, Winneba, Senya Breku, Gomoafete, Teshin, Jamestown, and ongoing. School feeding. We fed a lot of people. We've increased it actually from 1.6 million in the 2016 to close to about 3.3 million people as of 2021.
And you've still, I mean, just to interject, I've wanted to interject, but you've still pegged the rate at around 1 CD. Which has got, in fact, less than 1 CD.
I think
1 CD before. Yes, I know, but we were expecting, these nations and others to use less than 1 CD.
At my last check,
to give
at my last check, at my last check, it's been increased. So if you look,
I'm not disputing that.
If you look at the level of infrastructural work that we have put in place, I've told you, every weekend I travel to Ashanti region. And when you are traveling from Accra to Ashanti region, from Pokwase to Isawom, the road is being expanded. clearly, you cannot take away the level of investment that this government has placed.
So it is clear. You've touched on infrastructure. You've touched on education. You've touched on
one district,
factories and all
one
of that.
district, one factory.
You do accept, though, that a lot of these factories, like I was pointing to you, Nana Kobia made some assertions recently on a different station about the watermelon factory, about another one, a rice factory, I believe, in Savelugu, and all of that. Claims that turned out did not check out. And our own, people have been on the ground, and these don't check out. But I'd like to take you on these 2 points. You speak about education and the numbers. You speak about unemployment and all of that, creating jobs. Do you know that in the second quarter alone, over 1 million men lost jobs between quarters 1 and quarters 2 of 2022? Lost jobs in this country. Men. I'm talking of only men. And that is data from the Ghana Statistical Service. In terms of percentage, 9.4% of employed men in the first quarter were unemployed in the second quarter. Are you also aware that in the Upper East region alone, 7 out of every 10, 69% of men employed in the first quarter were no longer employed in the second quarter? In fact, per the GSS in its statistics, 600,893 males, that is aged between 15 to 24 years, were not in education, moving now to education, employment or training in the second quarter. And that's an increment of over 100,000 from the 463,260 recorded in the first quarter. You have to digest some of these. It also adds that 3,335,604 males aged between 15 years and older are not literate. How do we grapple with all of this? Just today, the Finder newspaper, look at the headline. 1.2 million Ghanaian children not in school. And you look at the data, that is also data from the latest, statistic from the 2021 Population and Housing Census, which reveals that 1.2 million, in fact, 1,215,546 Ghanaian children aged 4 to 17, including those at SHS level, are not in school. Out of that number, almost 1 million children have never attended school. Think about F-cube. Almost 1 million children have never attended school. The Savannah region has 43.2% of children who have never attended school, highest percentage in the country. What do you say to that? So you're touting the achievements. How do you respond to these?
Benjamin, government puts the infrastructure together. Mm-hmm. Government puts the policy together. The children must go to school. That's the truth. I have not read the story, okay? I'll take time to read it later. Right. But we need to be able to, what are the reasons why they are not going to school?
Right.
Because we need to ascertain that. Because government has put the infrastructure in place. Government has put a policy in place. So why are children not going to school? Does
the infrastructure suffice?
Well, clearly, Benjamin, the world is overpopulated. Just about 2 weeks ago, the world was about 8 billion people. We are growing exceedingly, which is why when you look at our population conversation, we must be able to marry our resources to our population. But clearly, you look at the number of people that are born on this continent every 60 seconds, it's about 12 people every 60 seconds. 12 children are born. When you look at the developed world, every 60 seconds, 2 children are born. So we're gradually getting there. We're gradually getting there. I need to verify your data. But
this is data from the Ghana Statistical Service.
I know.
Partly from the census and then from Ghana Statistical Service.
We need to ask the question: why are they not going to school? Because the policy is available. People must go to school. So we must ask: why are the parents?
So you think the problem is the fact that children are not going to school?
We should find out why they're not going to school.
Not the fact that there is a yawning gap in terms of accessibility. And we're not just talking infrastructure, we are talking teachers, we are talking curricula, about our syllabi and the problems in there. We are talking school feeding and how it may not be operationalizing as well as we want. All those factors are in there.
It does not rule out the fact that young children must wake up and go to school. When I drive around town and I see children by the side of the road, I tell them to go to school. Because people must go to school, which is why it buttresses the point more why free HHS is key. If we have these skyrocketing numbers of children from the age of, you stated 4 to 14, that are
17.
4 to 17 that are not in school, the question must be asked, why are they not in school? Because as a government, we have done our part by putting the policy, by investing money and resources to make sure that children are in school. In recent times, I'll tell you the truth. In recent times, I traveled to Paris and I came, and just at Kotoka, one of the people who I came with, passenger, was asking, where are these young boys who carry trolleys here? I said, it's a thing of the past, because President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has put them in schools. And so if these numbers from Upper East and these other deprived communities are coming, we must ask the parents. The parents must answer why the children are not going to school. Because as a government, the resources are available and the data is good. So the data is good for policy to make sure that children are going to school, because you cannot deny any child the opportunity to education.
Right. I think Professor Haji, Professor Ivan Adaiment, a lot of people who are preeminent when it comes to our educational, sector and as the whole spectrum of what we do. They have said time without number that we ought to take a second look at these flagship programs. Some have even said that on the back of our economic situation, some of them ought to be trimmed down, not take them away. Free SHS, for example. Why do we still keep making it a mass thing where everybody benefits, when in fact, you, Palgrave, may not need free SHS? You get it. I went to a school last week. It's one of these international Montessori schools. And some of apparently they operate an international system and a Ghanaian system. Do you know some parents felt that free SHS may not make the quality cut? It may make the quantity cut, but not the quality cut. And they took their children to other schools. I mean, there are people who can afford to do that. Why make it en masse and, heckle everybody with this situation? Why don't we take a second look at it, especially when people in that sector are saying, do it this way and let it be better? Why?
Benjamin, the rationale really behind free SHS, and I'll tell you the truth. When I had admission to University of Ghana when I was studying, at the time I went to visit the Vice Chancellor of KNUST, Professor Anda. And I remember when he asked me, Palgrave, why didn't you come to KNUST? And I said, well, when I went to the Sadao College, I didn't do technical drawing. I wanted to do building technology in KNUST, and they said they will not let me do. Do you know what he said? He said, KNUST is a place where brilliant people come to. And when you come there, it's a clash of ideas and you will excel. The real benefit of free SHS is that somebody from Savlugu can come to Wesley Girls. Equity. Somebody from Nandom can come to Achimota. Somebody from Patia can come to Presec. That's the real benefit. That we all have equitable share of the resources and the benefits of education. Now, we don't rule out the conversations that have come as we have opened it up to the masses. I'll tell you, in 2019, I was in India and I met a Ghanaian who you would say could be able to afford free SHS. But he said, Palgrave, I am very particularly excited that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo brought free SHS. And I said, why? He said, because at the time when my daughter was going to SHS, my son was going to the university. And I didn't know how I was going to provide for my daughter and for my son. And he was particularly excited that free SHS was there. So free SHS is not just for people that cannot afford, but it's even for the average Ghanaian who ordinarily can afford. But as a government, we've put money in the pocket of people. I'll tell you, look, our grandparents who are taking pension are no more giving their money to their grandchildren to go to school. Our uncles and aunties that are taking salary at the end of the month are not giving money to their nieces and nephews to go to school, because government has put those monies into their pocket. So the conversation on free SHS is key. The government has heard it. I believe that as a government, we have done considerably well in ensuring
so I have had
literacy to the barest minimum.
I have had to bring in some of these because while we're talking about the motion of censure, at least with you focusing on that, these issues also come to play. The financing of the country and how those are being expended. But I'd like to just going back to the work of the committee, the ad hoc committee. How did you find its work? Some say that it was a bit of a worrying situation. Maybe a joke was made out of some things. And I listened to Katie Hammond by and large, leading questions here and there. I mean, for a moment, and I think, yes, while it's political, some of these issues, you hear people from here and there, but maybe that's something we can do away with. But just to find out from you, will the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, deliver the budget statement on Thursday? Will he?
Benjamin, you premise your question on will the finance minister. The budget for every year ensuing, especially now, the 2023 budget, would be delivered by the finance minister is the president's budget. And so the finance minister is still finance minister of the Republic of Ghana. I'm confident that he will deliver the budget on Thursday, God willing, to the Ghanaian people.
Okay, so hopefully he will be delivering that. Let me just get this from you then. So, and Emmanuel Bombande joins the conversation, a security analyst. Let me just welcome him aboard and wrap with you on this question. Mr. Bombande, a very good morning to you, sir.
Hello, good morning. And I always refer to myself not as a security analyst, please. I'm the humble person who is a peace-building practitioner.
A peace-building practitioner, okay. So I'll take note of that. A peace-building practitioner with your wealth of knowledge in this sector, though. Pardon some of us when we call you a security analyst. But just hold for me for some 30 seconds as I wrap this segment of the conversation with Paul Grave. So I'd like to find out, you were saying that the finance minister hopefully will deliver the budget statement. Well, are you aware that the majority has threatened in a way to stage a walkout should he come and do that? I have heard some of them say that they would walk out, supported by the minority. Now, you know that there's a quorum that needs to be formed for the budget to be delivered. If the numbers are not there, the finance minister will be humiliated.
Benjamin, we live in very interesting times. I think that our politics is getting very interesting. I'll tell you, as a party and even as a government, we have one position on delivering the president's vision for the country. I'm very certain that on Thursday, the majority side of Parliament and even the minority side will build stronger consensus because as a country, we need to be able to move forward. A number of politicking might not necessarily help with our growth and our development. I do not think that it takes anything away from our party and our government and even the country when the finance minister delivers the budget statement. And so I wish the parliament the best. I wish the ad hoc committee the best. I've been extremely encouraged by the processes that they went through to give the finance minister a fair hearing. And I look forward to the report that they will present on the floor of the House. It's going to be an interesting time, but I'm certain that the majority side of Parliament will not stage a walkout. I'm confident that they will be in the chamber.
You are confident of that?
Very confident that they'll be in the chamber. I'm very confident that the minority will be in the chamber. And I'm very confident that the president's budget will be delivered to the Ghanaian people.
Paul Grave, just stay with me. There might be other things that we may have to get into. But let me bring in Emmanuel Bombande, who describes himself as a peace-building practitioner. I'd like us to talk more into the issue of terrorism now. And in recent times, we've heard National Security Minister Albert Kandapa speak to some of these issues. I would like your quick thoughts on when the National Security Minister, Albert Kandapa, says Ghana has not ruled out the threat posed by the country's youth unemployment rate. That is one. He ties that into illegal mining, aka Galamsey, illegal small-scale mining, and the terrorist threat within the sub-region. Did the National Security Minister nail the issue when he spoke to us recently?
Yes, good morning to you and to all your viewers. He absolutely did so.
Right.
You cannot separate the person in terms of what he has always stood for and his understanding for the bigger vision of nation building, state building, and the responsibility to protect, and how he conducts himself to the extent that he provides leadership when it comes to matters that pertain to security. And to that extent, therefore, he's somebody that I have admired, and he is less on the rhetoric and more on how truly consensus is built in this effort to be able to tackle this menace, this threat of terrorism. But I wanted to quickly chip in there that anytime we talk about terrorism, we must never forget that it is the escalated phase of violent extremism. And so it is the is the attitude of extremism that has been left to fester to the point that it becomes violent as terrorism. And to that extent, anytime we are talking about terrorism, the key word is how do we prevent the extremism from maturing to the terrorism? And that is where I always feel the conversation should lead to.
There is also a bit of a worry when the estimators put out that more than 2 million youth are without work in the country. How does this become fodder for terrorist activity in our sub-region, especially when you're talking of Galamsey? And we know about, it's a burgeoning youth base that we have in the country, and a lot of those involved in Galamsey are young people. How does that feed into the conversation?
It feeds, in my view, perfectly. There are reports, if you go to the western region, western north, in areas like Wasa, in the morning around this time, you literally see hundreds of young people just simply moving on motorbikes and tricycles into our forests and ravaging our ecosystems to the point that we are looking on so helplessly. And that for you should be the first indicator that there is a paralysis of responding to the illegal mining that we call Galamsey. Compare that to, God forbid, terrorist cells infiltrating themselves in these groups who are vulnerable and offering them alternatives, which has always been the case, that they first arrive and they are attractive to young people precisely because of the alternative livelihood they offer. To the extent that some of the young people who are desperate might not necessarily be initially attracted to these offers, but it becomes irresistible when they look at their own prospects, their own future, the type of desperate lives they are living. And so the point that we must make in this regard is what I always call the recruiting ground. So what I see is a competition between our member states or between our governments in recruiting young people into the productive sectors of economic growth. And another competitor is the growing terrorist groups who are also recruiting, but their recruiting is for the evil and negative purposes of destruction, including human life. So who is going to win? Is it the governments who will succeed in recruiting for the productive sector, or is it the terrorist groups who will succeed?
Let me ask you, when you look at what you see now, okay, who is winning? Because we've been told that the terrorists usually are one step ahead, and they've done this in countries that now are facing some political turmoil, Burkina Faso, Mali, and all of that. They infiltrate and they get their money from the extractive sector, and they sow the seed of chaos. So are we a step ahead or are we behind, and how do we catch up?
If we look at our northern neighbors, particularly the example you gave about Burkina Faso, they are definitely a step ahead. And if the trend continues the way we have seen it in Burkina, which is now completely a red zone, it is not going to stop at those borders. And so the reality has dawned on us, and we've spoken about this several times, that terrorists are winning. And so the question is, how are we responsive enough to be able to halt this? And I want to come back to the point that you have emphasized, that if you also go to our northern neighbors, the attractive points are the illegal mining centers, because there is a lot of the economy around illegal gold mining that finances terrorism. And besides that, there are also the corridors of what you might call an ecosystem of livelihood that is more conducive to the activities of terrorists. And so Galamsey is not just about the destruction of our forests, it's also about creating the enabling environment in which terrorists can overrun this country in ways that could be shocking, precisely because of their interest in financing their illegal and terrorist activities. And we cannot pretend that this looming danger is not growing by the day. We must admit and acknowledge that it is not decreasing, it is increasing.
Let me also bring in the bit about the Accra initiative and what your take is on that situation. Right before I go to Professor Kwesi Enning, it was birthed in 2017 as a platform to discuss and strengthen security operations among some African countries. What do you make of it so far in terms of what its gains have been, Professor? In fact, Mr. Bombandi.
First of all, let's look at the origins of the Accra Initiative. The reason I like the Accra Initiative is precisely because it differentiates itself from the earlier initiative that has been described as the G5, in which the Sahelian countries in that group of the G5 Sahel sought to do what the Accra Initiative is doing, except that the G5 had a mindset of foreign aid and that somebody's money or somebody's military will come and fight against terrorism in their countries. And so it became a political setup and it was bound to fail. The Accra Initiative begins with a recognition that it is a local homegrown initiative of the member states, Ghana initiating with Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, and bringing in later on Burkina Faso. The emphasis is, one, that however little, the financing of the Accra Initiative must be, regardless of what we might call financial constraints, locally owned, locally driven. In other words, the budgets of our countries in the Accra Initiative. The moment the mindset shifts to let's look for money elsewhere, the Accra Initiative will begin to fail. Because it is not just about the budget, but it's about how that enables the Accra Initiative to be nimble, to be effective, less bureaucratic, but at the same time, capable of ensuring that it is not just a military response that deals with terrorism. It is also about the investing in people, particularly in vulnerable areas, cross-border areas, that now makes people to become the allies of the military. And that, for me, goes together. Both the social and economic investment in local communities, before then you even talk about the military responsiveness of our member states.
Hold for me. Let me bring in Professor Kwesi Enning, who's also been patiently standing by. Prof, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation. Hello, Professor Enning. Great. Good to have you. It has been a while. It's good to have you join the conversation this morning. Great. Before we even get into the bit about the Accra Initiative, we know about the numbers, and the National Security Minister has been speaking to them. He talks about the yawning gap, when it comes to unemployment. He makes mention of the estimate that 2 million youth, more than 2 million youth, are without work in the country. And tellingly, he says the unemployment rate is of much concern to government and could exacerbate any situation in our country when it comes to the terrorist threat. What do you make of that? Did he get it, right on target? And have you seen enough in terms of what we are doing to remedy this?
No, I think he's on target, but it's too little, too late. These are figures that ought to have come either from the Ministry of Employment, the Finance Ministry, and all kinds of other ministries as an input into the analysis that gets to the Minister for National Security.
Right.
Because what my name, Emmanuel, is saying in the studio, I guess we've been saying this for more than a decade. If you go to former President Kufuor's speeches, he started raising youth unemployment as a potential security threat. And if you look or examine the explosive demographic growth and the youth board, since Mr. Kufuor came to power in 2000, that is the last 22 years, probably about 5 million extra mouths have been added to the Ghanaian population. So yes, unemployment is a problem. The availability of explosives, guns, the narratives and discourses on easily accessible social media sites like Telegram are all compounding an already very bad situation.
Staying on that trajectory of unemployment, is this administration addressing it from the right ends? I mean, Paul Grave-Bwachidankwa, the government spokesperson on governance and security, is in the studio with me. He's spoken about job creation efforts and all of that. But the statistics are also there. I was just reading to him the latest statistic that between the first quarter and the second quarter of this year, about 1.1 million males have lost work. You can look at the different dynamics when it comes to, in fact, the World Bank, I believe, came out with a report saying that over 1 million Ghanaians just this year had fallen into poverty. When you look at those dynamics and juxtapose them with the Galamsey threat and how terrorists could feed into that, are we doing enough?
No, far from it. I don't think we've actually understood the complexity and the extent of the problem. And once more, I'll refer to my namesake, Emmanuel. We've been talking Galamsey, we've been talking vigilantism, and the way in which these two dynamics, vigilante and Galamseyism, feeding into the unemployment and the growing unemployment figures, to create a very combustible relationship. And we've only paid lip service, to either doing something about unemployment, doing something about Galamsey, doing something about all these issues. The nexus between Galamsey and deforestation in Ghana is so devastating. In the last 2 to 3 years, the rates of deforestation in Ghana reached close to 60%. Okay, that we are cutting down our forests in our bid to mine this elusive, small, highly precious, highly valuable resource that terrorists like. And let no one tell me that, this is new. In 2014, 2015, the Azuma mines near Japan were occupied by young people, or parts of it were occupied by young people from Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and La Côte d'Ivoire, armed, and created such difficulties for the operations to go on. So the link between Galamsey, the resources that are mined, and their possible linkage or their direct linkage to funding, fueling extremist violence is a very direct one. My namesake gives an example in the Western region. I will give 2 examples elsewhere. If you go to Bandankwanta and you drive out of town, and Bandankwanta has become like a Wild West town, so lots of cattle, lots of young people from all over the sub-region who congregate there to go to the areas around Tenga to do Galamsey. Now, the fascinating thing is that between Bandankwanta and where the mining sites are, there's a police station. Okay? And over a couple of days that we spent there, the police basically just look off. The thing is that when they are going, of course, they haven't committed a crime. When they are coming back, they haven't committed a crime. But it must be possible for our intelligence to know, because if an untrained person like me can know and can find them out, then it raises fundamental concerns about the information gathering, the analysis, and the way that analysis travels up the command chain until it gets to Mr. Dapa, who says, look, we have a problem here. And it is that failure, that inability to link what we see on the ground, combine it with other ancillary bits of information, and paint a clear picture for those who need to take the decisions to take it, that poses a mega problem. So this thing is all over the country.
Right.
And once more, probably, yeah.
Speaking of it being all over the country, I'll come to you briefly on the Accra initiative, but tied to that very point you make. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you assess the real threat that the National Security Minister speaks of in terms of these infiltrations on the back of our gold resources? And I say that even tying it to what we are seeing internally, the Kenyasi issue and Newmont, the youth of Kenyasi and Newmont. Yeah. This is not even external, this is internal.
Yeah, sure. 1 to 10, in which on that scale.
So one is the lowest, or 0 is the lowest, and 10 is the highest.
Yeah,
that's a professor.
Then I will put it at around 3.5.
3.5.
Let me explain why. Yes, because over the last 2 or 3 decades, we have become a country that provides the infrastructure for these activities to occur elsewhere.
Right.
And let's not forget, those who perpetrate these acts of violence make rational choices and make rational calculus. So if you can get the parts for the IEDs, if you can get the gold, if you can get the small arms, if you can get the explosives, why attack the source?
Right.
It doesn't make strategic sense to do so. And that is why I've given it that low mark. In terms of our being a facilitated country, then we come close to around 8, 8.5, 9.
Wow. Interesting point you make there. Very quickly, because when I come back to you next, it's with the way forward. What do you make? Has the Accra initiative, birthed in 2017, has it achieved its goals so far for you, Prof?
No, I think the Accra initiative is useful in the sense that there is something that when I was a kid, we used to write about very much when I started this business. The Accra initiative is about confidence, or it is a confidence and trust building mechanism.
Okay.
In which a group of states, recognizing that their collective security is so intertwined that they cannot on their own respond to it, decide to build trust among themselves.
Right.
Share information, share the intelligence, be able to know who is who, whose telephone number, and pick it up and call. During the COVID period, between March 2020 and around March 2021, close to 200 supposedly aligned terrorist, violent extremists were arrested within this particular zone, of the member states. So the Accra initiative, and I once more agree with my name, let Ghana not make that mistake, or members of that country. When our European friends come bearing gifts, those gifts are not because they want to stabilize us.
Right.
Those gifts are because they don't want the problem to get to them. When we don't do what they want, as has happened in Mali, they will pack their goods and go away and leave us alone. So the strength of the Accra initiative, that it is homegrown, driven by people and civil society who understand the issues and are saying, this is how collectively we can get it done. So kudos to those who are initiating the Accra initiative, but let's keep our eye on the ball.
Okay.
Because when people come bearing gifts, those gifts are not always good.
It's interesting what Professor Aining says about people coming bearing gifts. You must look into why they are bearing those gifts and what the intent is. But just hold for me, Prof. Hold for me, Dr. Bombande. Just briefly, you'll get your final comments shortly. I want to bring in Paul Grave, who is in the studio with me. The Accra initiative, what have been the positive takeaways so far? And moving forward, what do we do to ensure that we don't get where the National Security Minister is suggesting we could get in a minute?
So, Benjamin, the Accra initiative was birthed as an initiative from President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo when he was ECOWAS chair, and the skyrocketing issues that had happened within the sub-region of West Africa as it relates to destabilizing democratically elected governments and then also terrorism. I mean, it's true that it's to share information. And so you'll recall at a time when the National Security Ministry, together with the Ministry of Information and Government, sought to bring the citizen engagement with see something, say something, and the launch of the 999. Clearly, it's all as a result of the Accra initiative, and even how the Kudangu were able to arrest certain persons. It's also a result of that. And clearly, today, they're having the presidential meeting at AICC. Yesterday was the ministerial. I was there. Today, I'm going to be there at about 10 o'clock. The president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is going to be there together with the 7 member states.
So these challenges are being addressed. They're being looked at.
Absolutely. There was actually a technical meeting last week with non-state actors, including academia. You know, Prof was my teacher.
Right.
So it's good to have a student and a teacher on one set. It means that he taught me well. So Prof, a very good morning to you. And so if you look at all of that, clearly you can see Ghana's efforts in having homegrown solutions.
So just to wrap, progress is being made.
Extreme progress is being made. Extreme progress. Right. I think that it would deter a lot of terrorists from coming into the various sub-region because we are strengthening ourselves. And in strengthening ourselves, we are being united with the information. And we have actually even invited other countries. I mean, yesterday I saw the UK defense minister was there. The UK foreign affairs minister was there. Other countries had various, other countries from beyond the continent are there. So it's a good step. And we must commend.
Talking of other countries beyond the continent, that's where Prof's bit about countries bearing gifts comes
Christmas came early.
Yeah, Christmas came early. Dr. Bombande, for you, as we've spoken about these and the Accra Initiative, what do you think we should do to strengthen ourselves, to prevent the threat in terms of terrorism that we see? In less than a minute, in some 40 seconds, if you can.
And my good friend and good name, Kwesi Enin, I've not seen for a long time. Let me put it this way. I want to build on one thought that he emphasized, trust building, which then makes it possible to take out those human elements that prevent cooperation.
Right.
And the Accra Initiative is moving towards that. What that means is a collective effort that recognizes everybody. And that is why my good friend, the governance advisor, I don't mind all your efforts for credibility, but don't make it look like you have fallen from the blue sky and all of a sudden things are going to be different. This is the danger of our politics. And secondly, political will is what enhances trust building. When some of our politicians, and look at the Catholic Bishops' Conference statement at the end of their plenary assembly.
Right.
When politicians are the financiers of illegal mining, what are we talking about? There is a danger here that we must be dispassionate about, so that we cannot be building trust across borders, but there's no political will internally to stop the greed and the financing of illegal mining that is making our country vulnerable, not only to the destruction of the forest, but also enhancing terrorism.
Dr. Bombande, interesting way to end. Let me come to Professor Ening. You have the final word. 40 seconds, please. Hello, Prof. You may have to unmute.
All this modern technology and old. So for me,
all right.
So for me,
yes,
it's about adaptive hybridity.
Okay.
Adaptive hybridity as an approach that creates a framework and provides a flexible, sensitive response to context specificity. Right. You know, so here we are bringing in civil societies. In other places, they will bring in chiefs and women, religious leaders. So adaptive hybridity in terms of responding to, understanding, and degrading this threat will also mean that we are bold enough to constantly appraise these approaches, not merely on a country-by-country basis, but looking at it through a regional lens.
Thank you so much, Prof. And once more, it's really refreshing to have interacted with you after so long. Professor Kwesi Enning is with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. We also have Dr. Emmanuel Bombande, a UNDPPA Senior Mediation Advisor, former Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. He referred to himself as a peace-building practitioner. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation.
Very much.
Thank you so much.
Great. And to wrap in the studio, we also had Paul Grave Boache-Dankwa, government spokesperson on governance and security. Thank you, Paul Grave. I see you may have had a reaction to what Dr. Bombande said. Unfortunately, time is our friend. Okay. But once more, grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And that's how we wrap this end of the conversation. But there's a lot more to look forward to on the AM show right after the break. Do stay.
Days ago, leadership of the Technical University Teachers Association of Ghana served notice to lay down their tools after the government's failure to honor its codified conditions of service, which have been outstanding since 2016. However, according to the association, government has turned a deaf ear to its demands, despite the 10-day ultimatum. The association says the Ministry of Finance and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission is failing to heed to directives by the National Labour Commission to approve documents to ensure payment of internally generated funds. Professor Colin Samayao is National President of TUTAG.
The condition of service has two legs. One is payroll related, which is paid by government, and one is IGF, paid internally by the various universities. Because of the delay, the issue had to go to the National Labour Commission, which is just like a high court. And the National Labour Commission ruled that government should take the necessary steps to approve the document to ensure that those that have financial implications are captured in the budget. Okay. As we speak, most of the institutions have finished preparing their budget. So when will the approval come and when will it be captured in the budget? And you agree with me that if an item is not captured in the budget, there's no way payment can be effected.
Professor Amayao says the delay in the 2023 budget reading gives the state agencies ample time to expedite processes for the approval of the documents for consideration in the budget.
They should take the necessary steps to have it approved before budgets are prepared, okay, to ensure that payment can start in January 2023. But it's been dragging. We don't know the motivation. And luckily for us, the budget has not been read. But in the number scheme of things, budget should have been read around 15th of November. You understand? So, fortunately for us, we still have some time. So we think that this is the time to push to ensure that we get approval for it to be captured in the budget.
The industrial action is also cemented by the government's refusal to engage the association on review of their off-campus and car maintenance allowances.
Early this year, the government side wrote to us that henceforth the well-known formula that is used to compute off-campus and car maintenance allowance.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lansah. Professor Collins Amayao, TUTAG President, who you just heard in that story, joins us via Zoom this morning for more on their concerns. Good morning to you, Prof. Thank you for joining the program. So just a quick one, Prof. And as is expected, there always is a mediator between government and groups like yours when it comes to labor issues. We know that the NLC issued some directives you're yet to see that being implemented by the finance minister. But did you go back to the NLC as mediator in all of this when you realized that the part of the finance ministry's side was not adhered to?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, indeed, we went to the Labour Commission. We wrote to them requesting that they enforce their own ruling. Yes, so that is it. We went back to your call.
Right, and what response did you receive from the NLC?
Actually, nothing much except to say that they always give us the needed attention, and they will ensure that government side will abide by the ruling.
Do I get the sense that a strike is the only way you believe government will hear you?
Unfortunately, we have been trying to use the diplomatic approach, and we have done it several years, but it's still not yielding the needed result. As you may be aware, we are working against time. If we are not able to get approval before the budget is read, then we will be in trouble. And it is for this reason we think that this is the right time to push to ensure that people who are supposed to work within the needed time frame to ensure that our members will not be shortchanged come 2023.
I'm asking this because I remember when I engaged CTAG on why they decided to take their strike, go on strike. They mentioned a bit on trying to get the attention of the finance ministry. In times past, UTAG has also had reason to go on strike because they say they were not being heard. Is that the same case with you?
Yes, that is it, because we've written a number of letters. Even acknowledgement has been a challenge. Okay, so if you don't even receive acknowledgement of the letter, how much more will you expect to be invited for a negotiation or things like that? So generally, I think the attention from the finance ministry is not the best, and we have to up their game to ensure that some of these industrial actions can be abated as before even the ready are obligated.
So times are hard. I mean, we recently heard about the minimum wage for 2023, which many have described as woefully inadequate considering the cost of living in the country at the moment. Well, government or reps from government say that times are hard, we must all admit, and try to balance it. For you as TUTAG, I know that you know that times are hard, but what is it that is making you so sure that government can meet your demands? For which reason you are on strike to demand your quota?
Thank you very much. You know, some of our issues are not financial, that doesn't have financial implications. Some of the issues border on leave, sabbatical leave, retirement, post-retirement contract, and things like that. So we are starting to understand why government is dragging her feet in these issues. And secondly, some of the issues too, those that have financial implications will be borne by the various universities. And the universities, knowing their financial capacity, have negotiated with the various unions based on what they can afford. So this has nothing to do with the consolidated fund for government to think that it will have some financial burden on the economy. So for me, I actually don't understand why we get where we are.
I appreciate the clarification, Prof. So if government says we're willing to meet those demands that will not put such a strain on us financially, are you willing to come to a compromise? Is TUTAG willing to reach government at that level?
Why not? Why not? We are academics and we actually understand what is going on around the globe. So we are not as it were, bent on taking our pound of flesh. But what we expect from authorities is to give us hearing, is to give us the opportunity to engage. Okay, it should not be like a headmaster-student relationship that you sit somewhere and issue instructions and you think that those instructions should take effect without hearing from me. No, some of the issues are considered of service issues, and this should be discussed bilaterally. Government side cannot sit and then just vary the condition of service anyhow. So what we are requesting from government is that let's sit down, let's discuss the issues, those that have financial implications on the economy, even if it means deferring payments to such a time that government will have the resources to pay. We have no problem at all not to go on that path. But if we are ignored, then that one, you don't expect us to sit down, be treated like that way.
So you just want a hearing? That's it?
Yes, we want some engagement so that we can reach some amicable settlement, some amicable agreement that will be beneficial to both parties. Okay, we understand what is going on, but that does not mean we should allow our members to suffer unduly. That is also not right. Okay, the times are hard, and our members are also living within these times. So what it means is that our members will also be struggling, okay, to come to office, to come to school, to come and teach. And for that matter, whatever we need to do to facilitate their movement, to make their life a bit comfortable so that they are able to discharge their duties and deliver on their mandate, I believe that is what we all have to do. I mean TUTAC and government, because it is in the best interest of both government and TUTAC to ensure that members are well catered for so that they can deliver and deliver well.
Prof, what is the nature of your strike? Have you withdrawn all services?
No, we have withdrawn teaching-related services.
But you would visit campus. I'm asking this because I know for some institutions there are people with project works working on other projects and all. Do those people also suffer as a result of the strike?
Yes, when I say teaching related, it means project work, examinations, marking, and things like that.
So what is your direct message to government as we sit now? We like you mentioned, that we were expecting the budget earlier. We don't know for sure when we're going to have the finance minister deliver it. You're hoping to have a hearing with the finance minister before the budget is read. But what if that doesn't happen? What's the next move for TUTAC?
I hope that will happen. I hope very well that will happen, because if that doesn't happen, then it's going to create chaos at the Labour Front and from the TUTAC side, because we have been patient. We have tried as much as possible to avoid this drama, and we have tried to use a diplomatic approach to ensure that the issues are resolved. And we have gotten to a point that we think that we can no longer explore those options, and that is why we took this action. So I am praying that government will listen to us, help us resolve the issues so that we can come back to the classroom. If that doesn't happen, then I'm afraid TUTAC will still be from work.
I appreciate your time here this morning. Professor Collins Ameyaw is president of TUTAC, and you heard him talk about why the group is on strike and what they're demanding from government. Water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions: 330 ml and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We've introduced our special 19-liter jar for offices and homes. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified drinking water wherever you go. Come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified drinking water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center, produced by Kasaprekun. For bulk purchase, please call 026-235-1251. This advert is FDA approved. Also, buy your 3-month or 12-month HD Plus subscription on your HD Plus decoder this football season and dial *844*8# to enter the HD Plus Orekodo Double promo. There are 1,700 rewards to be won, including trips for 3 couples to Dubai in December, a 65-inch TV, and household appliances, among others. The promo is valid from now till the 5th of December 2022. So do subscribe and be a part of this promotion. You're watching the AM show. We'll be back to talk more. We'll have a conversation with the GRA. Do stay. I'm grateful you could stay on the AM show. Now, the GRA wishes to inform the general public, especially persons registered for value-added tax as VAT, that the Domestic Tax Revenue Division has commenced the implementation of an electronic invoicing system, or VAT, which is referred to as EVAT. This involves integrating the invoicing systems of VAT registered taxpayers to the Commissioner General's invoicing system. Taxpayers who do not have an invoicing system will be required to issue invoices using GRA's certified invoicing system at no cost. VAT registered taxpayers are to note that refusal to integrate their invoicing systems with the Commissioner General system attracts sanctions. Kindly contact the GRA's toll-free number 0800 900 110 or contact GRA via WhatsApp on 055 299 0000 or 020 063 1664 or send an email for further enquiries. Well, this morning we're having a conversation with Winifred Odoy, who is Jamestown Collection Officer in charge of warehousing, and she will be giving us more details on this aspect of the job that they do. Principal Revenue Officer, Jamestown Division.
Jamestown Collection.
Jamestown Collection, okay. So first off, just help us understand what warehousing is about.
So, good morning to your viewers and your listeners. I want to say good morning to my Commissioner General, all management team, my sector commander, EC Warehousing, and all the officers at Jamestown. Warehousing is an international procedure that deals with importing of goods into the country without the payment of the duties and taxes at a designated place.
Okay.
It's a trade facilitation tool that helps us to improve on our importation, fast clearance. It's also said to be the mother of all regimes, where other transactions of regimes can be passed through the bonded warehouse.
Okay. So what are the types of warehouses?
So basically, we have two main types of warehousing. We have the private warehouses and we have government warehouses. Under private warehouses, we have the private bonded warehouses. Then we have commercial bonded warehouses. Then we have industrial warehouses. Under government warehouses, we have the government warehouse, we have public warehouse, and we have the state warehouses.
And we practice all these systems right here in Ghana? The different types?
Yes. Actually, right now, the government warehouses are not much operations, but the private bonded warehouse and the commercial warehouse are in operations.
So for the private bonded warehouses, how are they operated?
Okay, so if any operator or any person wants to operate a private bonded warehouse, the law CC Volume 1, Volume 2, Part 5 indicates that they are supposed to apply to the Commissioner General. When approval is given by the Commissioner General, the customs regulation has indicated a 4-point requirement that you need. You must have a bond, you must have a valid permit, you must have a fire certificate, then you must have a connectivity, that is to operate the system. But Commissioner's Order Number 1 of 2013 has also outlined a 16-point requirement. We call it a checklist, so that anybody who wants to operate a bonded warehouse must first be registered as with a registered journal. You must have the certificate of registration, you must have a certificate of incorporation, you must have certificate to commence business, you must have your tax clearance certificate, you must have your VAT certificate, you must have a plan, the site plan and a block plan. You should also have a fire certificate. You should have, depending on the directors that you have, you must have their details. There is a police clearance certificate. Depending on the items that you want to clear to, either go to the FDA or EPA to get the license. When you have applied and you have approved, you're supposed to pay $2,000. This is renewable every year.
Okay.
And that is $600.
Right. So is it the case that people are putting up warehouses and are not abiding by the procedures and rules? Do you find people doing that?
That before they apply, okay, so before you apply, the survey is done. It is the custom officer who determines how feasible the place is as to the structure, as to the accommodation. So you must have the place that is fit for purpose, based on construction. You must have, like I said, you must have a site plan. When they do the survey and they approve before you, if it is not approved, there is no way you can operate.
Yeah, but the question I'm saying is that, do you find that people are, putting up some of these things and not going through the necessary processes? Do people do that?
No.
Right. Okay, so can all imported goods be warehoused?
No.
So what are the kind of goods that...
Okay, so the CC Volume 2 has outlined a number of things that all items can be imported, but
there are exemptions.
And these are assets, these are arms and ammunition, we have fireworks, we have caskets, we have stones, depending. So it depends on the security and public safety and the nature and type of the goods. All these are taken into account before it's allowed.
I understand warehousing
recently, in 2018, some high dutiable items have been exempted. So cooking oil, ethanol, tin tomatoes, canned drinks, canned fish, and lead acid batteries cannot be warehoused.
They cannot?
No.
Because?
It has been exempted. Like I said, they have measured them against revenue risks and security and all that.
Okay, interesting. I'm also told that there are categories of warehousing. What are these categories?
So, to warehouse, we have 3 types of categories. There are goods that we have grouped them and we call them perishables. All goods are perishable by nature, all goods perish. But we have grouped some as perishables, some as general goods, and some are raw materials. For perishable goods, if you are approved to bring in perishable goods, you can have 3 months to warehouse them. For general goods, you have 1 year. For raw materials, you have 2 years. And you may re-warehouse them if you apply to the Commissioner General and it is approved.
Okay. Interesting. So just to make it simple for people to understand, warehousing is just keeping these goods, right? I mean, in the layman's understanding, keeping them in a structure that has been approved until you're willing to sell them off. And that's why for some you have 3 months. So within 3 months, you must clear all the goods from the warehouse. Yes. Okay, that's for the perishable goods. And for the all goods, you have 1 year, which you can renew with the Commissioner General after 1 year. All right, so quickly, are there any advantages of warehousing to the importer and government as well in the business community?
For governments, warehousing helps. In fact, it's a trade facilitation tool that the government has acceded to. So it also helps us to clear the ports as quickly as possible so that the place does not get stuck. For the importer, in fact, it is so convenient for them to bring a large quantities of goods at a point in time. Instead of their capital locking in the payment of duties, they are able to buy in bulk and store and pay as and when. They have the local market and the foreign market to explore. In fact, it has a lot of benefits for them.
Right. Finally, what are some of the identifiable challenges with warehousing? You mentioned earlier that we don't have a lot of government-bonded warehouses at the moment, but what identifiable challenges do we have, and what is the way forward for the warehousing regime?
The challenges, I would say, the highest that we have as of now is that some of the operators, due to business exigencies, are not able to clear their goods within the stipulated time. And we have that unfortunate business of getting to the point of detaining the goods and sometimes to the point of even seizing them. This is not something that we are comfortable of doing at all, but sometimes it does happen. And one other thing that sometimes come up, when they are doing the survey, it might not be there, flooding. So by the time they are doing the survey, the place is fine. But somewhere along the line, I mean,
flooding becomes an issue.
Then we have some goods going bad. Then, I think so.
That's basically it for it. But I mean, it's just important that we understand how some of these things work so that they can help the business community. And it's good that, like she mentioned, because imagine if we didn't have warehouses, what will be happening at our ports? Already, sometimes people's items stay for so long, they have to be auctioned. Yeah. So the warehouses help a lot to relieve the ports of the stress. So if you are interested in operating a private bonded warehouse, Principal Revenue Officer Customs, Jamestown Collection, Winifred Odoy, has just told us about it. So how do they go through the process? Do they contact Customs? Do they go to the GRA office if someone is interested in operating a private bonded warehouse?
Now, they apply through the Commissioner General, through the sector commander at where the location of the warehouse. Yes. So if you're located around Accra and his surroundings, you apply to the sector commander, Jamestown, who will appoint an officer to go and do the survey. And like I mentioned earlier, when the checklist is done, whatever you're supposed to bring comes up, then we will do the approval for you. You pay your $2,000 and you are in business. One thing I would like to add is that it comes with responsibilities, because the law states that even when your bond is not adequate, you could be suspended. Okay. So
what does it mean if to say your bond is not adequate?
Okay, so for the warehousing to come on, you have to engage a bond, and we have premises bond and we have removal bond. The premises bond takes care of the goods in the warehouse, so their ex-warehouse. The removal bond takes the goods from the point to the warehouse. So at any point in time, when your bond is not adequate, as of now, the system will not even allow you to continue operations. Previously, because it was manual, it was happening. But right now, as
because
of now,
we're integrating and going
online, everything is done online. So the system will even block you from going on. I want to add that Section 891, Section 79 to 84 spells out the exigencies when they flout the law. That is what I want our operators to understand, that the law, like when there are unlawful access like this, is an offense. Section 121 of 8912 spells out a lot of offenses and their punishment. We don't want anybody to be punished because we are doing transactions with them. So we implore them to go by those laws and regulations.
Right. So for people who are already private or who already operate private bonded warehouses, they will just migrate onto the e-system of the GRA, this new platform. They're already on it. All right. We appreciate your time here this morning, helping us understand all of this. That's Principal Revenue Officer Customs, Jamestown Collection, Winifred Odoi, giving us some understanding on the warehousing regime and the new additions that they've brought on board. Well, it's now time to hear from you. It's now time to get interactive. You heard that conversation earlier Benjamin Akakpo had with our guests, and also on the TUTAG strike. You can share your thoughts with us if you want to speak about the censure motion hearing. You're also welcome. Would like to take your views. Mapito Sibidi will be joining us shortly for that. Meanwhile, the GRA wishes to inform the public that effective 1st October 2022, persons wishing to apply for tax clearance certificates should do so online or download the Ghana Taxpayers app on Google Play Store or the App Store. Applicants who visit our taxpayer service centers will be assisted by officers of the authority to apply. Applicants are also required to indicate the taxpayer identification number, that's the TIN of the institution or organization requesting the certificate, so they can receive a copy. Applicants should take note and be guided accordingly. Kindly contact the GRA's toll-free number 0800 900 110 or via the WhatsApp number 055 299 0000 or 020 063 1664, or send an email to info.vat@gra.gov.gh for further inquiries. This day we get interactive right after this.
Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. And one mighty school is celebrating its 70th anniversary. We're going to be having an interaction with Charles Go. He is a Bobu 98 and president of the 1998 year group. He joins us for a conversation on that. Charles, a very good morning to you. I think it's only fitting that we do this after how many years? You know, it just hit me that both of us left senior secondary school. Not senior high school, because when we left it was secondary school in the last century.
Actually, that's very true.
In the 20th century.
I think the last time I saw you was in 98, isn't it? So,
right, 1998. Wow. Yeah. Wow. It's been what, 24 years?
Yes, 24 years.
It's really good to see you.
Good to see you too, bro.
Okay, so we're talking about the 70th anniversary celebration. But before we get into that, sometimes there are people who say, oh, where are you? Where's the school located and all of that? We know so much about the school, but where are you located? Tell us a bit about Bishop Herman College over the years and what it has contributed to our educational space.
Okay, so Bishop Herman is located in Bandu, Bishop Herman College. It was actually set up by the Catholic Diocese. And over the years, it's really contributed highly to national development, to the educational space. Still regarded as one of the biggest schools in the country, even though our infrastructure today does not speak to that. However, Bishop Herman has produced quite a number of notable personalities,
right,
both in politics and all aspects of our national development. And for me, that's really a good thing. And they continue to churn out quite quality students as well too over the years, despite all the challenges.
So A-class school, it's been the go-to school in the Volta region, but we've got some stiff competition from other schools.
Well, it's still regarded as the Lakeside College.
The Lakeside College.
I know, right?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
We boast of a very nice environment as well too. So,
right.
You know, from the campus, you're able to see the Mount Gemi, and then obviously the valley from the campus is actually where the Volta Lake is. So quite nice situation for the school.
It brings back lots of memories. But moving on from there, I mean, the school has come very far. And in recent times, we also had a lot to celebrate when it came to the National Science and Math quiz, both at the zonal level and at the national level. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I think that over the years, we've not really lived up to expectation when it comes to the National Maths and Science quiz. We know that we always had the potentials, but it never really come together. But this year, for instance, obviously it started with winning the voter and OT regional zonals, which was quite commendable. There was a lot expected of the team that they would go far as possible. Unfortunately, we were knocked out from the quarterfinal stage. However, it's still a remarkable achievement, because what it also means is that we're one of the seeded schools for next year. And interacting with the students, you could clearly see that yes, they had what it takes to get far. Unfortunately, you know, some of these things they tend to play out. You know, sometimes it has to do with stage fright and all that.
Experience
also counts. You know. Right. But the most remarkable thing about this particular crop of students was the fact that they were the same team that competed last year. So they were in SS2 when they competed. So obviously they are built on that sort of experience to then to do this both at the regional stage and then the zone.
Is that something that Bishop Herman is going to build on moving forward? Looking at what other schools, those that are, you know, really in there, the St. Peter's, the Presex, the Adisadels and other schools that have really made a mark, the Prempers and the rest, OWAS. Is that something we're going to replicate?
Well, Benjamin, we have to, because aside everything, it brings to you, the old student, a lot of sense of pride.
Right.
To be associated with a school that is really performing well at such a national stage. And the NSMQ has become something that we all look forward to. So if your school is doing well, you definitely must be doing something right. And I think that for us as old students, it's time to really invest in what it takes for us to go far. The schools you mentioned, like Presec and the Gasco and the Prempers, they all have NSMQ center. We have something like similar, but definitely not to that level. So it's something that we need to critically and as a matter of urgency really invest in that aspect.
So before we get into the program, what would be your charge to old students, not just towards the NSMQ drive, but generally? We know that some aspects of the school have not lived up to expectation, infrastructure-wise. You know, it's a government thing, but as old students, there's a whole lot that we can do. Like you mentioned, some other schools and what the old students are doing. What is the charge to old students?
Well, I think the old students, particularly at the year group level, are doing quite well. But then there's still room to do a lot more. If you look at the state of infrastructure on campus, for instance, today, it's quite appalling.
Right.
And going to a 70th anniversary with that kind of infrastructure, you might say that yes, government, you know, it's quite responsible for some of the things. But I do think that if we come together as old students, we should be able to put things better than it is. And for me, critically, all students need to step up. I mean, we need to be committed to our association as a matter of urgency, and then make sure we push one front, you know, to achieve the things that we want to achieve.
Let's look at the road to the 70th anniversary, and it's quite a lineup that we have, starting from Thursday.
Well, it actually started last month.
So I'm talking about the 4-day plan. But yes, we've had a series of activities within the month.
So we've had a series of activities. I think the key highlight was the medical outreach that was held last month. It's never been done before, and it was really on a grand start. I think about over 600 people were treated by doctors and nurses from the Old School Association, and for me that's quite remarkable. But coming weekend, we actually storming Pando, and that is something really to look forward to. Activity starts on Thursday, where there will be career guidance and counseling sessions with quite a number of the old students mentoring, from lawyers, engineers, doctors,
medical doctors,
academicians, and all that.
We're going back to Pando to mentor these kids because, look, when we were there, probably we had that kind of connection with old students. It would have helped a lot more. You know?
Right.
But I think that, particularly for the new generation, they need that. They need that sort of guidance to be able to find their feet. Because it's a very competitive world out there. I mean, you know more than I do.
It is.
You know, and
it is.
These guys need our help, to be able to navigate the hustle and bustle of this world.
Okay. Then day 2 is Friday, and we'll have that massive invasion, the Bobobo night.
Oh yes, but it all starts with a convoy from Have. So Have, it's on the way to Pando, just the last turning before you get into Pando Township, and the plan is that, yes, everybody gathers over there and then we drive into Pando in a massive convoy. We're really looking forward to that because Friday night will be Bobobo. And Bobobo is the home of Pando. Pando is the home of Bobobo.
Yeah.
So we're really looking forward to a flurry of activities. There's going to be bonfire nights. There's going to be a host of activities on that Friday, and then we would definitely usher in the Saturday morning.
You remind me of Commonwealth Hall and some of what. But on Saturday, that's the main event.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about that.
So the main event is on Saturday, and you know what? We don't go back to Pando, Bishop Herman, without tasting Darfur's Lapiwa. So for some of us, the morning would start with a Lapiwa visit, early in the morning, and then on the anniversary day itself, which is a Saturday, we're expecting to have the Excellency, the President of the country, to grace the occasion. There's going to be a speech and prize giving day. Awards will be given to both teachers and non-teaching staff, long-serving, staff. Obviously, the students will be awarded as well too. So we're looking forward to having a very great anniversary.
And that actually reminds me of our speech on prize giving day, at which I actually got awarded. So it brings back memories. But
I'm
Sunday,
not surprised, actually.
on Sunday, we'll have the Thanksgiving service and departure. But let me find out, who are some of the guests that have been invited, who are coming to grace the event?
So the President of the country is coming. We're going to have Togbe Teple Hodo as well.
So Nanado Dankwa is on the bill.
Right. Yes, is the guest of honor. And we're looking forward to receive him and his entourage.
Okay.
And, the president doesn't travel alone. So, and for me, I think it's a good time for him to be there, and then he'll see things for himself. But beyond that as well, too, there's a lot of investment from his government into education, and probably would cement that as well, too. We're also looking forward to receive the president of the regional chief, who happens to be a Bobo as well, too, Togbe Teple Hodo, a host of dignitaries. Dr. Ernest Dumont as well. Professor Ernest Dumont, who is the chairman of the Council of Elders for Bobu, an old boy as well. So he's going to be there.
So quite a number of people are
quite
going to be there.
Quite a number of people that we expect, and we're ready to receive them on the day.
Well, we can only wish all of us, because I'm part of the fraternity,
and I
the
hope
very best. We'll do everything possible to pass through. Definitely. The schedule is hectic, but we'll do everything possible to see.
You have to be there. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it's been good having you.
Great.
This is my senior, so I have to pay homage to him.
Nice.
Charles Go from the 1998 year group. He's also president of the 1998 year group, and we wish ourselves the very best. Thank you, Charles, for coming through.
Thank you very much.
And for those of you watching, well, do stay with us. We'll be right back with more on the AM show. All right, here we are as we cap off the day, but I was just having that interaction on the 70th anniversary of Bishop Herman. here we are again, and the school's reunion and others are on the chopping block. Mapito and Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah are back. Welcome back.
Thank you. Great. This is the first time I see you guys.
That smile and the thank you.
Oh, Benjamin. All right,
so it's about a hit schools reunion.
Yeah, so we're talking hit schools reunion, and it's happening this Saturday. It's going to be very exciting. I know that Benjamin is excited for that. Bernice, which school do you? Which school?
How come we all pose that question to Bernice all the time? Because she has two shades.
I know it's not Akosombo and what?
I went to Akosombo International School in
Infantaman.
Okay. Yeah, the
Infantaman.
debate people. Okay, but I want to find out, what was your favorite food back in senior high school? That's the question we've been posing on social media. But before I go into social media, let me start with you, Bernice. Favorite food?
Sunday afternoon wache.
Oh, why?
Yeah, because it was great.
Yeah.
It tasted like homemade wache, and my shito was a good compliment. And we had one of our teachers selling spaghetti and salad, so you could get that on the side.
Some in there.
I'm guessing Gary Soaking.
Oh, I mean, Gary is our companion. But there was this, I think the senior housemaster had his wife, she was making this bread thing. Okay. Kind of like the Togolese do it. Bread with some stew and some
salad.
The meaty chunks in there. It was super. The way that thing chop our money. it wasn't.
All right, so let's go to Facebook quickly and see what you guys have been saying. We'll also be opening the phone lines. We want to find out what was your favorite food in SHS. We'll go to Patrick, who says Gary and beans. The ladies would not come, and I had enough to eat and store for the night. And Sarah J says boiled yam with groundnut soup. And Bing Florence Aka says, okay, tell Joe Prime to bring back hashtag playful kiss, okay. And Abigail says rocks with groundnuts and jollof with chicken. Anita says kenke with smoked fish and pepper. And Nana Quick Cruncher says go. The phone lines are open and the number will be on your screen. Let's find out what was your favorite food back in SHS as we prepare for the Hits FM school.
So Maps, since you didn't school in Ghana, we need to find you a school. I think, honestly, not because I went to Infantaman Girls. You look like an Infantaman.
Even the shade reflects it. She's either Infantaman or Holiko.
No.
What about Wesley Girls?
No.
I think I'm a Wesley girl.
Maps. Listen.
Or AME Zion.
Maps, listen.
Give her Zion.
Okay, I'm listening.
You see, let me give you an example. The Wesley Girls.
Okay.
One of my sisters went to Wesley Girls,
okay.
I know. Largely, not everybody fits that description, but they are more DB, more hello, hi, how are you?
Okay.
My sister is like, I know that most of them largely fit.
Are you beefing with them right now? Are you throwing shades?
No. Not at all. But you look like an Infantaman girl.
Why? Okay, so explain to me.
So you're saying she doesn't fit that category?
Okay. I know your vibe.
Okay, so I'm fine.
I know you.
Yeah.
I know your my things.
Okay, so
but I also know her vibe, and I feel she could also fit an Agri Memorial.
No.
Which one is Agri Memorial? Wait,
it's also in the center.
I'll saw an Infantaman uniform for you. I said Maps is an Infantaman. Don't argue with me.
Okay.
No, but what is this? You anyway.
Okay. Do you see how she crosses
we'll leave it
in
there.
the morning? Do you see how she says hello to everybody?
And that's an Infantaman thing.
Okay, I see 03022111691 is the number to call. Let's go to Shiashe. Eunice, good morning. Eunice, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I love it when ladies call in. So what was your favorite food in SHS?
So my favorite food was the cassava. Cassava that we're taking on Sunday.
Okay.
I also went to Infantaman Girls. So
Yep.
I love the cassava.
Okay, so
cassava with what?
Cassava with contomere. It was called spring rolls.
Yes.
It's called spring rolls.
Oh, is that true?
Okay. So I didn't meet that on the menu, but I heard about it. So she must be my senior.
Ah, I see. Okay, so 030. Thank you so much, Eunice. 03022111691. 03022111692 is the number to dial. Let's go back to Facebook. Ellen says rice and gaso, known as high school. Gas?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's gaso.
Oh, gaso is what?
Did you know that?
Yeah. Look, so there was the the gari, the beans, beans, right? So sometimes you would have beans and rice. Sometimes you would have, depending on the school you attended, you would have other accompaniments.
Yeah, so my school, gaso was, it looked like soup stew.
Yes.
Soup stew, okay.
Yeah, so it had it tasted like stew, but it had the consistency of soup.
Right. And that's what I was getting to. So there's the beans one, and then there's the groundnut soup. That sometimes would have this, like you're saying, the consistency. You would wonder whether it was soup or stew. But trust me, in our day, I mean, this is quite. Some of the soups.
Yeah.
Some of the soup
were amazing. Let's go to Birmingham. Shaibu, good morning. Shaibu, okay, we lost
unfortunately,
Shaibu. Just
Shaibu.
Quick house rules. When you call us, please make it short and sweet, and also turn down the volume of your television set. Back on Facebook, Redeemer says wache. Victor Usu answer says rice and beans. Francisca Mami says nasaba rice and groundnut soup. Efo Emmanuel says
he's describing the picture.
Okay, describing the picture there. And Rady Johnson says gobe and rice. We also have Ophelia Joy who says, okay, well jam with groundnut soup. Still enjoy it to date. Jude Mbandi says rice and groundnut soup known as Meet Me Under. So very interesting names. So we had what? Meet Me Under, spring rolls. What else? Okay, so let's go to Patrick in Takrade. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning, madam.
How are you?
I'm doing good, and you?
I'm fantastic. What was your favorite food in SHS?
Oh, was rice with contemporary stew.
Rice with contemporary stew.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Okay, that sounds really good. And all of this food talking is making me kind of hungry. Thank you very much, Patrick.
You're welcome.
And you know something? There were special days like when you're going to have jollof and fish or something with contemporary and all of that. So we looked forward to those days. But there was one thing, the beans, You know, beans already contains protein, but we had extra protein. Sometimes.
In your school?
The weevils. Oh. Sometimes they would have
Can you imagine?
Extra protein. And we survived those days.
I was say, because I was thinking about proper protein.
Yeah, extra ones.
Was solid.
So the meet me under the comment by Jude, this is my suspicion, because sometimes when you served the soup on the rice, there will be separation.
Something would rise.
The water settles under, and then the granules and the other ingredients.
So you actually have to mix it up again to get a consistency.
So meet me under.
Okay.
I mean, that's my suspicion.
That makes sense. All right, let's go to Seth, who says gobe, and Mansfield Justice says we call it gravels.
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
So that was for breakfast. It was made from maize.
Yeah.
But you know,
is that
so you know, Ekwek Baimi is the maize
is it oblayo?
But it's smaller. Rocks was larger.
Yeah, it was chunkier.
Chunkier.
It was really nice.
I'm not a porridge or a breakfast person, but I went to the dining hall all the time. But I enjoyed the bullfruits.
Yeah.
That our porridge usually came with on Tuesdays, I think, Tuesday morning.
You actually remember the day?
Yeah.
Sheesh.
So with us, I think my favorite was like on Fridays we'd get burgers. So
please,
these people. No. We'll give her to Gehe. Let him pick this one. Based on this observation. No.
Please, the Wesley Girls people, let us know if you were giving burgers. I doubt.
All right, but let's go to our last caller in Kokomemle. Sadiq, good morning. Sadiq, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
So, what was your favorite food in SHS?
That was Tubani.
And
KKZ.
I see. Okay, that sounds interesting.
Which school? No, we'd like to know the school.
Did you say Tubani?
Yes, Tubani.
Tubani is a great beans meal. Where were you having Tubani?
Is it?
Which school is that?
That is Tamale Polytechnic.
Oh, Tamale Polytechnic. Okay. Wow. You guys should try Tubani. It's great. So especially when you have it. So it's made from beans. It looks like, do you know, not so much like a papransa, but it looks like a cake meal, like something you can
I think I get the feel.
And then you can drizzle a little bit of pepper or have it with fish or, sardine, but whatever accompaniment. Some people even have it with some vegetables on the side, but Tubani is great.
So it's like some sort of like a bean cake?
Beans, yeah. It's made from beans.
Reminds me of something Ethiopian, actually. They're always lovely.
Right. Yeah.
Those meals.
Well, that was a good one. Then you were having fun in Tupoli then.
Right. But still on the Hits FM
Yeah.
Schools Reunion, come rep your school in grand style. It's powered by Alumni Enterprise Live. Enterprise, your advantage is proudly brought to you by 10 bets for the better. Koba, our live simplified VIP magnetic perfume from Dreams Cosmetics. Al-Haji Vision Herbal Clinic, the Eye Doctor No Surgery, and the Ghana AIDS Commission. Now, the most loved and exciting kids cooking show on Joy Prime Big Chef is finally coming to an end as we journey to the finale. Now, contestants have displayed their exceptional culinary skills in the last 11 weeks of the competition. We started with 14, and now we are down to the big 6. Adra, Alma, Fudalia, Iram, Prince, and Laura. So vote for your favorite by dialing *711*60# and follow the prompts. Who wins Big Chef Season 2? Remember, your vote makes 40%, so vote as many times as you can. Catch the finale of the Big Chef on Sunday, 4th of December 2022 at 5 p.m. on Joy Prime. Big Chef is currently brought to you by Fortune Rice, Frytol Sunflower Oil, Indomie, Top Choco, Flora Tissues, Low Price Masters, Sankofa, Natural Spices, City Blood Tonic, and Perk Biscuits. Benjamin, Bernice, before we go, I want to say
it's good how you called her Benjamin and called me Bernice. Bernice Abu-Baidoo, Lansah. Who are you again?
Benjamin Akakpo. I want to say a fantastic birthday to our very own Jacqueline Sylvianate, a slayer, part of the Pastors and Slayer. We're very proud of your growth. We can see the work of God in your life, and we love you.
Are you trying to suggest that she become a pastor soon with the work of God in her life?
No.
After slave.
No, not soon. You
all right.
Relax for us.
Thank you so much for your company this morning. Benjamin, Mabs, and myself are grateful to have you every day to join us. We're back tomorrow, God willing, at 6 a.m. Do stay. News Desk is next. Take care.